Good evening, everyone. It is May 21st, 2024, and time to call to order this meeting of the Gallatin City Council. We'll begin this meeting like we do all of our meetings with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Carter is going to lead us in the invocation, and Vice Mayor Love is going to lead us in the pledge. I invite you to stand with me, please.
May we bow. Dear Lord, we thank you for allowing us to be here. Lord, we ask that you bless our comings and our goings. We ask that you give us traveling grace. Lord, we ask that you bring a sense of love and unity into this room and into this atmosphere. Lord, we ask that you would just bless us as we do the business that you have called us to do for our great city. In your name we pray and we ask it all. Amen.
And let us pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Kittrell, if you would call the roll for us, please.
Vice Mayor Love.
Here.
Councilman Carter.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilwoman George.
Here.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
And Councilman Juvance. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Okay, approval of minutes is on the agenda, but we do not have any minutes to approve. So we will move on. Well, before we do public recognition on agenda-related items, I will have two proclamations to present, and so I'm going to go to the podium and present those. First, I would ask any representatives for Mental Health Awareness Month to join me at the podium. I think someone should be here. If you feel like you want to join me, you're welcome to. It's a very important thing for us to talk about. So I'll just read this first proclamation. It says, whereas mental health is an essential part of overall well-being, impacting individuals, families, and communities across our great state of Tennessee. And whereas 1 in 5 American adults experiences a mental health condition each year, and everyone faces challenges in life that can impact their mental health. And whereas, despite its prevalence, mental health remains shrouded in stigma, preventing many from seeking help. And whereas early intervention and access to quality care are crucial for managing mental health conditions and improving quality of life. And whereas May is recognized nationally as Mental Health Awareness Month, providing an opportunity to raise awareness, combat stigma, and promote mental health resources. Now, therefore, I, Paige Brown, Mayor of the City of Gallatin, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month and encourage all citizens to educate themselves and others about mental health conditions, treatment options, and available resources. Challenge stigma by speaking respectfully about mental health. Seek help if they are struggling with their mental health and encourage others to do the same. Support organizations that provide mental health services and advocacy. Create safe and supportive environments for open conversations about mental health. And work together to create a community where everyone feels empowered to prioritize their mental well-being and seek help when needed. So that is the first proclamation. You may have noticed that City Hall this month is lit in green, and that is for awareness, for Mental Health Awareness Month. I presented this earlier today to members of the health department and some mental health organizations and efforts that were supportive of this and asked for the city to do this. And so I'm proud to present that proclamation to you all this evening and proclaim that month is Mental Health Awareness Month. The next proclamation that I'm presenting is very near and dear to me, and I'm just sorry we haven't done it every single year. This is National Public Works Week, and in recognition of that and celebration of that, I have a proclamation to present, but I really want our folks from Public Works to join me at the podium. And I know you're back there. I saw you. And I'm so glad you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, council, I think our community does recognize the value of our amazing Public Works employees. They have had an incredibly tough year. So many of them have had an incredibly tough year, not just in doing work that the city needs, but also personally. And yet they keep, come on up here, y'all. They keep showing up. They have great pride in what they do. They serve our citizens so very well. And I hear compliments all the time about how much you put into your jobs. And that translates. I mean, that just says, you know, you are some of the most forward-facing employees of the city of Gallatin. And when our citizens see the work that you all are doing on a daily basis, they're so very grateful and thankful. And so some of you have been here a long time. Lyndon, how many years?
39.
39 years. He is, I call him MacGyver. He can figure anything out. But you all deserve this every single day, the recognition that you don't necessarily get. But I recognize, our council recognizes, your fellow employees and department heads recognize, and I believe our citizens do too. So thank you for what you do. Please extend our well wishes to the rest of the employees of the department, Mr. DePriest. But between tornadoes and windstorms and Resource Authority fires, flood, you all have had quite the year. So this is a proclamation by the mayor. It says, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Gallatin. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and in the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Gallatin to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works as the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Paige Brown, Mayor of the City of Gallatin, do hereby designate the week, May 19th through May 25, 2024, as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. I applaud.
Nobody wants to be front and center.
No. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Probably didn't have no film in that camera. He didn't have no film in that camera.
And council, there will be a luncheon this Friday for our public works employees, and they have a bit of a rodeo, and you'll be amazed at some of the talent they are able to exhibit during their interdepartmental rodeo. I'd invite you to stop by if you have the opportunity. With that, we're going to move on to public recognition on agenda-related items. There is also a time at the end of the meeting for public recognition on non-agenda-related items. I would remind you that we must have your name and your address for the record if you're going to speak. I would also suggest you, based on some comments they've made over the last couple of weeks, that if you have some accusation of impropriety or illegal wrongdoings, you need to take those complaints to our attorney or our police department or our district attorney. It's really unfair to get up here and make accusations against our employees and put it out there to the public with no proof, no consequences. If you think something's going on, it needs to be investigated and it needs to be taken care of. And I feel that way, our department heads feel that way, and it hurts our employees when those kinds of accusations are hurled at them. So I would encourage you to go that route if you have a serious complaint that needs to be investigated. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. You'll come to the podium. And with that, public recognition on agenda-related items is now open. Do you want me to?
Good evening. My name's Lina Marler. I live at 1512 Cherokee Road. So I think tonight that we can actually all agree on something. When you have an important decision to make, that you need to have examined all the pros and cons of the issues. So I realized a few days ago that we haven't talked about a few, and I would like you to consider them tonight when you make your decision. The first page on your handout shows where the Green Farm and the Kirkpatrick Farm would connect to form a collector road. Traffic has been a huge concern with the traffic study showing over 6,500 car trips a day. So a few weeks ago, Brian Rose, city planner, came and spoke about a collector road that would take some of the traffic from the Green Farm to 109 through to Clear Lake Meadows, extension by way of a narrow strip of land on the Kirkpatrick Farm. That evening, this was presented as basically this is going to happen. We've got 4, errors and we're drawing it out, and that's what's going to happen. Well, there are 4 roads. So since that night, though, it changed and it became referred to as a possibility. I think he misspoke that night. I think that was an honest mistake. So I started digging deeper. Initially, I thought that the issue was going to be getting cars through a very narrow 60-foot wide strip of land to Clear Lake Meadows through the Kirkpatrick land, but I realized it's more. If you look at this topographical map, taken as you can see from the U.S. Geological Survey website, it shows with 3 blue dots where a bridge would have to be built to connect these 2 pieces of land. You can see that the land drops from 570 feet on the Green Farm to a low, it drops like 50 feet, to 519 in the ravine, to eventually 552 feet on the Kirkpatrick Farm. The distance between the blue dots on the Kirkpatrick Farm and the Green Farm is approximately 1,500 feet. So that's slightly over a quarter mile. So I'm no engineer, but I feel like that's one long bridge you'd need to span this divide. I know that you don't have to go level to level, and you could go down a little bit. I don't know how they do all that, but it's still going to be a very long bridge. So I've been told that the city will never build a bridge in a development. My question tonight, is that true? If that is true, that leaves it up to the builder on the Kirkpatrick Farm, who at this point appears to be Meritage. I'm sure they haven't agreed to do this because it's not even gone through planning yet. So this is a real big case of putting the cart before the horse. I feel like it's disingenuous to say that this will happen when no one knows for sure. As a realtor, I never said a house was sold until it closed and a contract never valid until signed. Are you basing your vote tonight, is my question, on facts or maybes? Something to consider. The second thing I want to talk about, and I don't have a map for this because there hasn't been one provided. The maps that you've seen of the banks do not show the turn lane off of Block 4 leading to the entrance across from Aqua Drive. So this turn lane will take the greenway. It's going to push it way into the green space. So what you're shown is Lot 4 with this nice straight greenway. Well, that's not what it's going to look like. You're going to have this big, huge, wide width of concrete. I feel strongly that this should be shown on the maps that you're basing your decision on. This will look very different from what has been presented. If this turn lane is going to be there, why is it not shown? The last map is the D.R. Horton plan. It shows 3 miles of greenways. They are the red lines that go along parts of Block 4, and they follow the main roads through the development. My question is, who will be paying to maintain these greenways? The cost will not be insignificant, as they will have to be ADA compliant per Brian Rose. This includes handrails on any slope more than 1 inch and 20 inches of length. The fall. Have you seen some of the hills out in this area? I live out there, I know. The greenway next to Peach Valley will be steep. That's a lot of handrails. They also will have to meet the stipulations provided for in the $5 million grant in order to connect to future greenways. So has this grant and its requirements been discussed in council? I've never heard it discussed. So I guess what I'm saying is when this process started 2 years ago, you were as a body only considering the D.R. Horton project. Things have changed drastically. You're now looking at 3 developments clustered together. That's over 1,105 homes. With this significant change comes the need to re-examine the entire area and project. You've gone from only considering one neighborhood to several. The same problems exist, traffic, schools, affordability, et cetera, as when we started, but now they've increased exponentially. Therefore, with all the changes that have happened since the original plan was presented, I would ask you to vote no to the plan as presented, or at a minimum, defer the project until the questions and concerns the citizens and I have raised and can be addressed. Thank you for your time, as always.
Hello, excuse me, Karen Bookout, 1006, Quailwood Cove, Gallatin. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you, Mayor Brown, and council members Fennell, Carter, Javance, and Fan for participating in the Zoom meeting last week with 10 Green Land Conservancy to hear alternatives to development. Your participation spoke volumes to me, I believe reflective of your individual interest and desire to keep Gallatin gracious and green. Thank you also, Ms. Hi McCauley, for your time on the phone yesterday to discuss the ethics complaint I filed against a particular council member. I grew up in Metro New Jersey, specifically Paramus, New Jersey, 12 miles outside of Manhattan. This upbringing afforded myself and my family the opportunity to visit world-renowned museums, great restaurants, shopping, plays, multiple zoos, and professional sports from New York Knicks to the New York Yankees. But my fondest childhood memories are from my time spent in Van Saun Park, a 146-acre park in Paramus. Van Saun Park has multiple playgrounds, picnic pavilions, and picnic areas with grills, trails, sports fields from soccer to baseball, and a dog park. Additionally, they have horse stables, and residents pay the city of Paramus to board their horses in the stables, so the city earns income from that park. Additionally, this might be a little further along than Gallatin's ready for, but they have a petting zoo and a train that the city also earns income from. I visit friends several times a year in New Jersey, but I don't miss it. It's overcrowded and the traffic is horrible. You think the traffic in Gallatin is bad. Imagine sitting on Route 80 for more than an hour to get over the George Washington Bridge, while it took a half hour to 45 minutes just for you to get to that point. I sometimes revert to my heavier New Jersey accent when I'm talking about New Jersey, but I say this in that vein that it is not too late, as I have said before, to save Gallatin from this scenario. Memories are made spending time with family and friends, skating, playing sports, picnicking, hiking, bike riding, horseback riding, tossing a Frisbee. Not walking a greenway dotted with an occasional tree here and there in someone else's backyard staring into their kitchen windows. I do hear a rumor, by the way, that there may be a Bloomberg reporter here tonight writing an article about the overdevelopment in Gallatin and Atlanta, of all things. I asked this council recently what you would like your legacy to be. Would you like that legacy to be a park with trails, sounds of birds and frogs, children playing, the sizzle of a burger being tossed on a hot grill? Or will it be a greenway with no natural beauty through overdeveloped neighborhoods, overheated by concrete and rooftops? Again, it is not too late. As discussed in that 10 Green Zoom meeting, there are grants available for park development. Sure, the city will have to pay something for a park, but you will also pay for the upkeep of that greenway. Excuse me. The land grants are available, much the same types of grants used for the Beatty Farm, which 10 Green Land Conservancy was affiliated with. Excuse me. In addition, you'll have to pay to resolve the certain future flooding issues and infrastructure. I am pleading with each of you to search your conscience, to ask yourselves why you wanted to be elected in the first place. I'm sure your reason was to serve your constituents, to do the highest and best job you could for your constituents. I am asking you, again, to search your conscience, and I'm pleading with you, do not vote yes on this development tonight. Vote no on this development, or at the very least, vote to delay this vote so that other alternatives to development can be fully investigated. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor Brown, council members, and staff. My name is Vicki Hendrick, 1145 Lock 4 Road and 560 Peach Valley Road. I had no intention to come back and speak, but I just thank you for this last opportunity. All the other ladies and people that speak always have so many good statistics, and I feel like I come up here and pour my heart out and have my emotions on my sleeve. I feel we all need to strive to make this world a better place, not just Gallatin, the world. Not by just our words, but also by our actions. A wonderful word to me is benevolent, wishing good for others and actively helping them achieve it. I would like to believe you all serve for that reason. I wish that everyone in this world would live that out in their daily lives, benevolence. I always heard there is no right way to do the wrong thing and no wrong way to do the right thing. Please vote no for this development as it is. Is there any other option? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Todd Alexander, 217 Strange Circle. I'm just an average citizen that look at different projects going on in our city and try to make sense of them. A couple weeks ago, I shared some research I had done out at the Nexus entrance and how, if you'll remember, shoulder to shoulder is 81 feet wide, almost 3 times the width of this chambers. And compared that to the 22-foot wide road at Lock 4, near where the entrance of the banks of Lock 4 would be, and how clearly there's just such a staggering difference. One road was built with development in mind, one was not. A few weeks ago at their Square Fest, I had a booth, and what a great event that was. 80% of Gallatin city residents came by my booth and voted, if you will, that saying that Gallatin is growing too fast. In fact, 2 council members came by to vote. And if you're wondering, their votes canceled each other out. But tonight, if I was in your chair, there's some things that I would just be thinking about. First of all, I would think about all the neighbors in this area that have spoken in opposition of this development. Next, I would really carefully study the traffic survey that was done by the traffic engineer. And if you remember, there's places in there he's not sure that some of the things that would really need to be done to Lock 4 could be done. And he cites some safety concerns as well as some engineering concerns because of blind hills and curves on that road. Multiple citizens have stood at this very podium and expressed safety concerns about Lock 4 Road. If I was sitting in your chair, I would want to make sure that I heard from our city attorney, making sure that we had absolutely no exposure to the Tennessee Governmental Tort Liability Act that could hold this city responsible for creating a dangerous roadway near this development with the number of cars that are expected to be on it. I would ask tonight that you would stop trying to convince the residents of the area that this project is 2.29 houses per acre, when everybody here knows that's not what it's really going to be. Yes, if you count all of the open space, I understand where you get the number, but the reality is you're dropping almost 5 houses per acre in the middle of this development. That is not going to look like the neighboring community. I don't believe it will complement the surrounding homes in the community. And so I just rise tonight and ask you to please vote no on this project. And lastly, Mayor, respectfully, I would ask for a roll call vote tonight when it comes to it. Thank you.
Gwen Dixon. I live on Emily Point, which directly intersects Lock 4 Road. Partly I'm here for the people that didn't come, said, don't waste your time. It's a done deal. They've made up their minds. It's going to happen. I'm here because of 675 sites on the 260 plus acres. 675 sites. I felt so badly at the last meeting, Halewood, I think, the Windsong development and the water runoff. And, you know, you stop and think about it. All the pavement, all the concrete. What is going to happen? We don't have a crystal ball. We're not saying do not develop. We're merely pleading that you think about the number of sites. This land is going to be there. This owner will be able to sell this property. If this developer walks, there's somebody waiting right in the wings. We can do this responsibly. It doesn't have to be 675 sites. Even if you broke it down to, say, 400, I realize you guys have a lot of, I looked at the site for the pending developments that are coming online, and some that have already been accepted, some that have to have a master plan. what is the harm if you say tonight, no, we're going to send it back to this developer or whomever, look at it again, perhaps you could come in with a better plan that would be more harmonious to all of them. Even if the developer looked at projects like, Twin Eagles or Eagle Creek, Cambridge Farms, look at all of the developments that are going on. Lock 4 is not a boulevard. When you say boulevard, when we've seen some of that's great because Station Camp or some of those, they have major routes. This can be done, but it just needs to be done in a more cautious, confirmed manner where it doesn't project on all the surrounding areas more hardships. We need a plan for our trash. We need a plan for our schools. Where are we going to help Gallatin High School absorb all this? Believe you me, one person said, how's this going to stop? It's going to stop when the land is gone because we don't have any more. This is it. If we just plan conservatively and not put an overabundance, the developer, they can still make money. People are going to buy the houses. And I thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Mary Janang. I live at 1100 Lock 4 Road, and I'm up here tonight to ask you to vote no, plain and simple. We've been up here for 2 years, and we've given you our case over and over again, and we've given you all the situation that we have out there, the safety issues, the traffic, the dumping of the traffic into Nichols Circle that will come, the dumping of the traffic onto Nichols Lane that will come. When all of this gets developed, and you have Woods Ferry that's getting dumped on, and I will tell you that when we had this last rainfall, I went out and took lots and lots of pictures of all the flooding. And you can say it was a 100-year flood, you can say whatever you please, but it's gonna flood. You put rooftops, you put roads, you're gonna flood. And it's gonna all go down behind Aqua Drive, those homes behind Aqua Drive, and into the marina. And it's gonna be sludge and mud and stink. I asked you not to do this, only because I'm looking out for the safety of my community and the people that live near me and the people that live in the Nichols Circle area, on Nichols Lane, Connie Drive, all of us out there, and we're asking you to vote no. It is in your capacity to do that. You may have your feet stuck in the stone and you have already decided you're gonna vote yes. I get it. But I'm gonna tell you that you're not the ones living out there. Some of you have never even been on that property. And I want to say that if you don't know what you're looking at and you're just looking at a piece of paper, you really need to understand the land, because that's not going to work out real good out there. And I don't believe in dogging people. I don't believe in saying bad things about people. I don't believe in saying bad things about people's businesses. But you have been presented a plethora of information, and I really hope that you'll take all of this into consideration and you will vote no, because that's what your citizens are asking you to do. And I thank you for your time.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Mary Simpson. I live at 1275 Lock 4 Road. I'm here tonight to speak against the proposed Banks of Lock 4 development and also the Kirkpatrick and Bryan Drive developments that are either in planning or pre-planning stages for those two. I'm going to start out with a quote. Growth is inevitable and desirable, but destruction of community character is not. The question is not whether your part of the world is going to change. The question is how. That's a quote from Edward T. McMahon. He's an author. He's also the Urban Land Institute's Senior Resident Fellow for Sustainable Development. That's a mouthful. Anyway, but let me read that quote one more time. Growth is inevitable and desirable, but destruction of community character is not. The question is not whether your part of the world is going to change. The question is how. That quote pretty much sums up my opposition to the proposed Banks of Lock 4 development and now the Kirkpatrick and Bryan Drive developments. It's really kind of nice to have your thoughts validated by an expert. All of us who are opposed to these developments are telling you over and over again that these developments will be destroying our community's character. We all realize that growth is coming, and we realize that the owners of these properties have a right to sell their properties. However, Gallatin City Council, you and you alone, have the answer to how our part of the world is going to change. That's a big responsibility, one that could potentially severely impact our current community character. I definitely don't envy you your decision and your vote tonight on the banks of Lot 4. Who says it has to be 1,100 homes crammed in on these properties, especially when we all know that the infrastructure is not there to support them? Sincerely hope that all of you recently took some time and drove down Lot 4, Peach Valley, and Nichols Lane to see for yourselves how narrow these roads are, and now realize why we are so opposed to these developments. I hope you also saw the 11-foot lanes with no shoulders compared to those found on Albert Gallatin. You definitely don't have current resident buy-in for these proposed projects. At one time, we didn't have a single person that publicly spoke for this proposed development. However, we have now heard from several people who have spoken for it. I might be wrong, but I think I'm correct in saying that all the people who have spoken for this proposed development are either somehow connected to it, monetarily or otherwise, or are people who don't actually live in the Lot 4, Peach Valley, Nichols Lane area. Those of us who live in this area will be the ones experiencing the brunt consequences of your votes for these developments. The traffic, the blasting, the construction, and yes, Mayor Brown, you keep hearing from us because we don't want this development, not because it will just affect traffic or just because it's happening next door to us, although both are true in our case, but it's because we care. We care about our community, its character, and we care about the city of Gallatin. Here at the city council meetings, I've heard several different numbers of housing units that have already been approved here in the city of Gallatin. Most of those numbers were in the double-digit thousands. In a quest for the true number, I asked one of you city councilmen what that number might be. The council person indicated they weren't sure and suggested I check with our planning office, which I did. I was very surprised to hear that they didn't have any idea. There was not a list of recently approved developments, nor a list showing the number of units in those developments overall, not a list for 2022, 2023, or 2024. As I mentioned at last meeting that I spoke, my working career was in IT. Data was king in the large retail company I worked for. Data played a pivotal role in every major corporate decision. Product pricing, sales data by product size, sales data by location, profit margins, lease contracts, inventory, warehouse capacities, transportation options, salary ranges, employee benefits, et cetera. It's absolutely unfathomable to me that the city of Gallatin can be planning our city without knowing such pertinent data. It goes back to our planning office just planning the developments, not how these developments will fit or impact the city. Our planner does have a large map of Gallatin on his office wall with some of the newer developments marked on that map, which is a good start. I should also add that our city planner was very kind, gracious, and respectful when he returned my call and answered the questions he could. I'll end with another quote. Neither cities nor places in them are unordered, unplanned. The question is only whose order, who's planning, for what purpose? That's a quote from Peter Marcuse, who's a German-born American lawyer and professor of urban planning. So for us, the city of Gallatin, whose order, who's planning, what purpose? Again, you alone have the ability to decide how our world in Gallatin is going to change. Please make a logical decision based on all the very valid concerns of your constituents and vote no for the banks of Lot 4. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tammy Searcy. I live at 613 Peach Valley Road. I am here and, of course, against all of the high-density development. I do live there on Peach Valley. I have a lot of trouble with flooding, not just with this last week, but all the time when it rains. I just want to go over some things that I've heard at different meetings that I've been here through the years. I've heard different developments where you went over what type, if the neighborhoods had to have brick, if they had what kind of siding, all this type things, because that's what was in that area. I just wondering why that area is not high density. Why can't we look at that and try to keep it like the area? I know they want to sell their homes. I've heard that from someone that there's not a market for the acreage, homes with acreage. I do know, like, the acreage that was out at Berry Lane at the Vineyards, they tried to get that put in the city limits years ago, several years ago now. It didn't make it. Every one of those lots sold, big lots, 5-acre lots, and there's houses built on those lots right now. Do I think we need, not all big homes? No, we need affordable housing. My nephew works for the sheriff's department. He had to buy a house in Carthage because there wasn't affordable housing with a yard in Gallatin that he could find. He wants a yard where he can raise his kids. He can take his dogs out there, that type of thing. I put a small survey on Facebook just asking people to see if I was wrong with the city people in Gallatin. Most people said they wanted a 3/4 to an acre yard if they bought. They want a yard, except for a lot of the older people. They said they liked the condos because they couldn't take care of a yard anymore. But the majority of Gallatins are not older people. They do want some yardage. I heard someone comment one time that they didn't want the big yards because they didn't want people parking in the yards. But if they had a bigger lot where they could park their vehicles in their lots, I don't know where any of you live, but most of the people I know that live in the high density areas, if I go there, I have to park in the road because there's nowhere to park if you have a visitor, if you visit family. These small lots just don't accommodate that. They don't accommodate the big vehicles. I've lived in Gallatin my whole life, so I love Gallatin. I hate seeing all of the, so much of the growth. I just wish y'all would take time to look at, like, I love the old buildings, the old houses down Gallatin Road that have been renovated into buildings. I like when I go down through there. I think that's what, when people come through Gallatin, they say, this is beautiful. They don't want to look at high-rise buildings and hotels everywhere. I like that the hotels are not on the main roads. I like that. I think that makes our town more beautiful when we go through. But some things I've noticed as I have lung issues. I'm a widow. My husband passed away. He had a lot of disabilities. But I think sometimes we get a piece of property and we want to cram all we can on that property and don't think of everyone that might involve. Just like the courthouse down here. It's a beautiful building, crammed in an area. I don't think that's where it needs to be. If a disabled person has to go to that courthouse, it is not going to be fun. There's not a close parking spot if it's raining. And even if you parked in front, you've got to go around a whole bunch of steps to even get that building. The same with the library. The library is beautiful. Did it need to be there? I don't think so. Did we need the library? Probably. Have you walked up that hill with lung problems or on crutches or on a walker? You want things to be beautiful for the whole town. So I wish we would look at what we put, where we put it. Did we need those things? Yes. Could we have put them in a better area? I'm sure that there were. I just wish as a council y'all would think so we can't go back and regret what we've done. As I was reading, as I know everybody did with Donna Belote retiring, one of her statements she had on there when she first took over planning for Gallatin, she said she wanted to do something her grandchildren might remember her for. And she's done a good job with that. So I just hope that y'all will keep that in mind, that your children and your grandchildren and the people here, they have nice homes, yards to raise their children in, parks to go in. Parks are nice, but when you're busy and you have laundry to do and things like that, your kids need to be able to go to the backyard and play. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is John Haas. I'm with Edge. I'm the land planner for the banks at Lock 4. I'm not here tonight to present any new information. We've been through this plan numerous times. We've made changes throughout the process and don't feel like we need to go through and repeat those comments to you tonight. But one of the things that we've done throughout this process, it was mentioned earlier, almost 2 years that we've been working on this, is we have attempted to respond to comments, whether that be through citizens' comments that are gained in this forum, or emails, or planning commissioners' thoughts, council members' thoughts. We have tried to address those issues with our revised plans, and most notably reducing the plan by more than 200 lots throughout this process and increasing the open space up to 148 acres, which we think is very important. In relation to that, there's been a comment, and one of the comments that we haven't addressed in the past is the comment that came up tonight in regards to the opportunity potentially for the city to purchase the land and make it a park. One of the issues with that, and one of the things we've identified, is in September of 2023, just last fall, the city published the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Within that master plan, each existing park had a list of high priority improvements and lower priority improvements. And then in addition to that, there were 3 properties identified for potential purchase from the city. This property was not one of those 3 that were identified. And again, that's a process that went on, I think, for about 18 months during that process. One of the reasons that we say it would be difficult would certainly be the challenge of purchasing 295 acres would be in the millions of dollars. And in addition to that, doing the improvements that we have slotted will be millions more dollars. So one of the things we've looked at is our proposal having that 148 acres is to please keep in mind that the open space is an important part of our community. We actually feel like we've created a park with neighborhoods within the park. And that park space, the 148 acres, the greenways, the playgrounds, the native trails, I know the greenways get brought up a lot, but there's also native trails, playgrounds, play fields. All of that is available to the public. And the easiest way to access that public land would be from the adjacent city park in the northwest corner of our property, where we've also identified improvements that the developer will make there. So again, I just ask you to try to remember that there is some advantage to the city in terms of dollars and how that park is implemented within these 148 acres. And we feel it's a very important part of our community, not just the neighborhood that's being created, but for the larger community as a whole, that public space is accessible. Thank you, and we respectfully request your approval tonight.
Jeff, are we live feeding?
Yeah, just tested it.
I'm getting a lot on my phone that says they're not.
We have had problems tonight. I'm watching the stream live.
Hello, Danny Clausen, D.R. Horton, 819 Seven Oaks Boulevard, Smyrna, Tennessee. So just want to thank y'all all for being here this afternoon or this evening. Again, I'm just up here as a reminder. We are here. We are part of your community currently. We work very well with the city of Gallatin. You guys work very well with us. I do have employees that live here. Some of those employees do get up and voice their opinion because they know our culture. They know our belief. They know that we do the right thing. So again, I just wanted to say thank y'all for your consideration tonight, and thank you.
I think it's still not live feeding, at least not on Facebook, so, or on YouTube. So if there's a way to check it, okay, it's because it's still not showing up on some of our phones. Okay. Just wanted to make sure you were aware. Okay. Ruth Fennell, 1049 Blue Jay Way, Gallatin, Tennessee. A lot of times I come up here to speak about things that are not being done, but I want to start this evening with big kudos to the city departments of Gallatin, who with the support of other cities in the county have gone above and beyond in handling our recent disasters. From the flooding a couple weeks ago to the Resource Authority fire to the December tornadoes, I and many others recognize that they have put in long hours to help citizens get to safety, protect the property that they could. And I hope that those departments know that they are very much appreciated and valued. As the mayor said, we've now had wind, flood,
fire, and I'm wondering if hail's going to be next. I hope not. But I also want to take this opportunity to offer some food for thought for the City Council. I and others are deeply concerned with the continued push on the banks of Block 4 development. There have been citizens speaking out against this development for months, and it continues to move forward. I understand that the council's fears of a lawsuit by a developer, but yet when a citizen threatens a lawsuit, there seems to be no fear. So what does that tell us? Maybe things are being done behind the scenes to address concerns that citizens bring to you, but they're not visible. They should not be hidden, but rather transparent, shown in public. So if there's no visible consensus of action, it makes it hard to make sure we're all on the same page. We do know that Gallatin is losing 7 football fields of trees every year. Gallatin is losing 10 football fields of pasture land, and in exchange, we gain 9 football fields of cement and asphalt. We know that water runs off of cement to the first place it can go, but pasture land and fields absorb the water. On average, a mature tree can absorb anywhere between 50 to 200 gallons of water a day. So I'm not here just to complain. We've all heard, don't kill the messenger. But what you don't hear is the next logical step after that, which is asking the question, is the message true? You can love me, hate me, dislike me, wish I would go away, whatever, not care about me at all. But you need to ask yourself tonight, are the messages that I and other citizens are conveying to you true? Are you listening to them with an open heart or just dismissing them without a second thought? And if they are true, don't kill the message because you disagree with the messenger. Be an adult, rise above those emotions and look at that message. The message really is to be proactive. We need to be more proactive in what we're doing. The takeaways that I've come up with after listening to the comments made at these meetings over the last few months are we need to find a way to conduct an accurate, thorough, and trusted survey of Gallatin citizens. Let's look at environmental studies of what potential annexed land needs to have or what it needs to do. Start requiring developers to plant more mature trees, or better yet, leave trees that are on the property, plant multiple trees for every one they knock down. Let's give those trees a chance to filter that water and absorb that water. If it's pasture, put in more retention ponds. People don't care about walkways, greenways, bike paths, any of that. If they're getting flooded out, anticipate the future needs of our infrastructure better, especially the roads. Nexus was a great example, as has been heard, but that type of planning for roads should be a requirement for pending requests. There's all sorts of new technology that could also be used to repair our roads. There's a machine called the pothole killer that's being used by New Jersey, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, among other states. And it's helping to really keep the roads in better condition. There's also a great video by the Colorado Asphalt Pavement Association that's got some interesting things. If a developer's disruption of the topography adversely affects someone nearby, require that the developers be accountable for water runoff that's impacting established neighbors. They need to be held responsible and fix it. I can't tell you how many people I know that now regularly deal with flooding after a new subdivision went in near them, and there's no recourse. You are also now aware of concerns about the quality of construction in new developments. In order to reassure citizens that the homes they're buying are properly made, we need to have a mechanism for inspecting and verifying anything that's been built recently, at least since COVID to the current times, that it was done accurately. Have all department heads meet and discuss what's on their horizon and what's on their wish list. I met with department heads when I was running for office and learned a lot of information. But it seemed to me that there were a lot of department silos that need to be broken down. There were also some trust issues. Good open communication may help to ward off concerns and lead to better solutions. Proactively partner with the county and nearby areas that are impacted by Gallatin's decisions. Don't brag about Gallatin, that we're not raising taxes, which is great, but other areas are going to potentially have to pick up that slack, and we all know about the schools. Ultimately, we've all heard that failure to plan is planning to fail. It seems that Gallatin is so busy worrying about today, we're not anticipating the future, and that's going to come back to haunt us. Let's start being more proactive. Don't dismiss information because of the message. Let's work together to build the future of Gallatin.
Tim Moran, 923 Emily Point. I wasn't planning on coming up here and speaking tonight until I was driving home and thinking about those I spent 33 years in the Air Force, and this is one of the things I was serving for, is to be able to do this, is to come up and let you all know what I think about developments or whatever's going on in our community. I'm not against developing the property. I'm just worried about the access to that property on Lock 4 and Peachtree or Peach Valley. Neither one of those roads is sufficient to support the traffic that's going to be added to it. And then I think further down Lock 4, further south, there's a lot more open space. You change the zoning for this, or we're going to have to change the zoning for that, and then even add more cars to Lock 4. I don't see the potential for Lock 4 to handle any more development. Then we've talked about eventually connecting to Nichols Lane. I don't understand how that's going to help any, because the majority of the cars that go out to Nichols Lane are still going to turn left and go right back onto Lock 4, because that's the direction people travel, down Lock 4 and to that part of town. Very little reason to go the other direction on Nichols Lane. It's just going to increase the traffic through Peninsula and Belvedere Drive. I know you tried to put in traffic circles through that area, and that didn't work. And I'm sure Lock 4 is just as narrow, and so it's going to be adversely affected, and our travel and safety in and out of Emily Point and further south is going to be detrimental to our health. Most of my other stuff has been covered already. The notes I took more eloquently than me, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to stand up here, and one more citizen's not come before you until tonight, to let you know that we are concerned about this development, and not against development, but the density. There's better areas in Gallatin to develop with this density that'll be closer to appropriate transportation routes. So thank you for my time, and I ask you to vote not vote for this rezoning, and that there's better places for the medium and high density within the Gallatin area. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your service as well.
Mayor Brown and members of the council. I'm Michael Zinzer. I reside at 914 Farrington Way in Gallatin, Tennessee. Been a resident of Gallatin, Tennessee for 47 years. 43 of those years, I lived in Emily Point. And so I want to echo the concern the people who spoke before me have raised about this development, who live on Lock 4, who live on Emily Point, and who live in the area. So, and I also heard many great arguments in opposition to this project tonight, and I'm going to start by incorporating them by reference into my remarks. I'm going to make a few points. Others have made up the traffic congestion. As I previously argued, Lock 4 Road can't handle any more traffic. It's a narrow, two-lane blacktop road. We've all heard about how many more car trips are going to take place on these two-lane blacktop roads. There's talk about further development of Clear Lake Meadows Road, but the timing is pretty vague. Roundabouts are ridiculous. Roundabouts on Lock 4 Road, if they can be built, will solve nothing and only increase congestion. Home density, someone before me made this point. This 2.29 is misleading. All these homes, and I don't know if the number is 675 or 695. I've seen both bandied about, but the true density of construction is going to be 5 homes per acre. Current real estate market. I've seen no detail on the square footage of the homes proposed to be built. Is there a minimum square footage? What are the projected sales prices? But there's a lot been written recently by a lot of experts that the amount of income needed by a buyer to purchase a median-priced home has risen from about $70,000 per year to $110,000 per year. This has happened since December of 2020. Mortgage interest rates have more than doubled. The National Association of Realtors last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, reported that housing affordability hasn't been this bad since 1989. Are we going to face a situation where they build all these homes and D.R. Horton is going to sell these unsold homes to corporate buyers who then rent them? Student safety. Sumner Academy is located in Nichols Lane, and everybody says there's going to be increased traffic for Nichols Lane, and that should be a concern for the safety of those students. Students will be arriving and departing that school during peak traffic periods. 2 weeks ago, I argued about this. I want to argue it again. Quality of life impact. This proposed development is going to have an adverse impact on the quality of life of all the residents on Lock 4 Road and the neighborhoods that are nearby. These are Gallatin residents. See, people appear here tonight. They've lived here for decades. They voted for you all. They've paid taxes for decades. They're being adversely impacted to satisfy the financial desires of the current owner and the Dallas-based buyer, D.R. Horton. D.R. Horton faces litigation issues all over America about the quality of homes they've built in many, many communities. Why should the Gallatin City Council take on that risk? Others tonight have argued about infrastructure. Definitely new development, going to increase the population, going to have an impact on the police department, going to have an impact on the fire department, and all other infrastructure. I want to echo what another citizen said 2 weeks ago. Let us pause approvals of new construction. Let's allow what has already been approved be built and allow infrastructure to catch up. I believe with great confidence that if this project were put on the ballot, the overwhelming majority of the citizens of Gallatin would vote against it. So I implore you tonight to vote no on this development. Thank you for your consideration of my views, and thank you all for your service to the city of Gallatin. Thank you.
Hi, Carolyn Seagraff, 1066 Lakeshore Drive. I really can't add anything to all the details and all the data and all the obvious reasons why this is not the best plan for this region, but I just wanted to add, I work from home, so I'm usually not on the roads. This morning, I had to take my dog for grooming over on Long Hollow, and it was 7:30 in the morning. I pull out of Lakeshore, but I can't get out of Lakeshore. There is a constant stream coming down Lot 4, and then when you think you finally got an opening, you look, and they're pulling off a Peninsula, or they're pulling off a Belvedere. So it took me about 15 minutes to find a little cut through in time to get off onto Lot 4. I knew it was going to be a problem. I just don't ever go out at 7:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening, when the traffic's really heavy. So then I went to Hancock, 109 to Long Hollow. When I got to Long Hollow at the light, when the light changed, you couldn't turn because the traffic was all the way backed up to the light at Long Hollow and the 109, exit. So then when I finally got through that, I was kind enough, we were letting people who were coming off 109 onto Long Hollow come, one at a time because they were backed up halfway down 109 on the other side. And then it was constant. We went light to light until I got to Long Hollow where I could cut off and, take my dog for the groomer. And then I took Greenlee, which made much easier than getting back onto 109. So traffic's not going to get any better. And this area, Lot 4, again, this is without the extra 6,000 trips. So I don't know how we're going to be able to do that. I don't see where all this planning in terms of the roadway is going to somehow alleviate or reduce that oncoming traffic that's going to hit us, off of Nichols Lane, down Lot 4, and then off of Peninsula, off of Belvedere, off of Hancock. I mean, that's a huge congestion. And you're right about Sumner Academy. You know, when school's in session, parents have to drive their children to school. We don't provide public transportation to our students. You know, some states do. So anyway, you're going to have that traffic backing up during the school year. And as far as I know, school's not in session, so it wasn't even like this was like a heavy time in terms of, everyone running to school or trying to get to school. So I just wanted to add that the problem's already here. This isn't going to make it better, and it's not going to solve it. So just to add it. So thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having us all here this evening. My name is Jeff Hebb. I live at 172 Cavalcade Loop. And I want to bring a few things to light here in the topic of Lock 4, a few issues to consider in supporting it. When we look at the rising house costs that was mentioned a little bit ago, just back in April 2019, the average house price here was $376,000. Just in April, it was $641,000 now. That's almost a 71% increase. The average household income currently is about $85,000, which supports buying a home price between $300,000 and $350,000. So that income today doesn't even quite support the housing price from 2019, and it keeps going from there. Housing demand was talked about, and I mentioned that last time I was here a little bit. Facing the high cost of housing and low inventory, we're about 5.5 million housing units short across the country. And this shows the need for us to find a way to increase housing supply, to do it strategically, of course, but that also will help with affordability. Funding services for the city has come up a few different times, and that's a very important topic to consider. As Gallatin grows, the cost of maintaining it and providing the services and the amenities and the activities that the residents expect, that's going to continue to increase, and we've got to look at ways to find funding for that as we grow and develop. Speaking of development, when considering development of Lock 4, here are some ideas and some policies to consider. Housing, making it affordable and supporting community development. That Lock 4 kind of speaks to that. It speaks to strategic growth. It helps create vibrant communities and diverse needs. There's more than housing there. There's a number of things mentioned about that. It's a planned community that kind of helps align with some of the cities and the residents' expectations, again, beyond the housing part. Zoning-wise, it helps promote economic growth and community livability. It does respect property rights, and that's kind of a component here as well. It helps preserve the community's character. I think when you talk about planning things strategically, you're going to look at how it does land and support the community. And so approaches like this do get some support in Lock 4. So in conclusion, considering Gallatin's needs and the high demand for housing together, developments like Lock 4 are actually helpful. And it balances housing density with open space. We've heard a little bit of both. It increases housing supply, and it does help promote affordability while maintaining some of the community's character. Again, a lot that's been spoken about. So supporting Lock 4 is a positive step to ensure Gallatin remains a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you very much for letting me speak this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Brown and City Council. I'm Michelle Juvance, 1335 Long Hollow Pike. I wanted to speak about city services this evening as a city resident and citizen. And so it was interesting that the previous speaker spoke about city services being provided by this development. Something that I've been thinking about lately and talking to some of my friends and just saying, the development that we see right now in Gallatin coming up out of the ground that's already being built is just the tip of the iceberg. See coming out of the ground is the iceberg that's under the water. It's massive. And I wanted to read something from the resolution for the temporary adjusting certain rates of pay, it says, whereas the city of Gallatin is having difficulty filling and retaining certain critical infrastructure positions due to competing wages. And then it goes on to list all of these critical infrastructure jobs, and that was when you raised the employees' pay at that time. I know that we do have certain critical infrastructure departments that are short-staffed. The police department, the public works department, the public utilities department, these are really important departments that we as citizens depend on. So when we continue to approve and approve and approve more and more and more, when we already have a massive iceberg like looming underneath that's coming up, popping out of the ground very soon, how are we going to provide services for the citizens when we're already behind? I want to read a couple of things. You all have heard me speak so many times about the annexation of my property back in 2008, when it was the 6 square miles that was annexed, and about how we're in default. And I wanted to read, back in 2008, when the population, this is the plan of service study, it said a 27,723 population. We had 61 sworn officers. The annexation plan of service study for this Lock 4, Banks of Lock 4 annexation, which was last year, in 2023, we had 93 sworn officers. This actually says there were 90 sworn officers, but then I've seen since then that we have 93 sworn officers. So the level of service based on police officers should be 2.55 according to MTAS. In 2008, it was 2.2 per thousand. Last year, it was 1.8 per thousand. So our services are diminishing in the police department. It was also required for an extra zone to be made for the police department with the 2008 annexation, but we still only have 7 zones. There were 7 zones before the annexation. We still have 7 zones, but we should have 9 at this point, according to this annexation plan of service study. So I'm saying that the goalposts keep moving, and it doesn't work that way. I expect the same level of service, but the services have diminished significantly with the rapid increase in population. And we can't keep up, and we're not supposed to change the level of service with each annexation. If you keep moving the goalposts to our current level of service, it keeps getting worse and worse. But the plans say that a similar ratio should be maintained to provide the same level of service as the city grows. So we need to stop this. Like, you need to take this seriously. We as citizens, we require you to provide services for us that aren't diminishing. We don't need to have short-staffed departments that are struggling. Thank you. Because it's not fair to them. So please vote no, and please pause all of the annexations and the development approvals.
Good evening. Brandy King Brugman, 109 Sutton Place, Gallatin, Tennessee. I wasn't going to speak, but I started tonight at the Planning Commission meeting at 5 o'clock. And similar situation, there's a lot of different sides and different people talking about the same subject, just different type of property. And it kind of struck me in a way, a couple weeks ago, I was at a luncheon for Grace Place, one of our largest fundraising events for a service that we provide here in Sumner County for single women with children. And the founder there was talking about housing affordability, finding places for people, and not being able to place people anywhere in Hendersonville or Gallatin, anywhere in Sumner County, because we don't have affordability. And then I got to thinking, how do we create that? Now, she wasn't talking about housing. She was actually talking about apartments. Well, we got to get people out of apartments and into homes to create room in apartments for people that she helps to get into apartments. And then tonight, it struck me that my family's actually affected by this housing issue. My son, myself, Air Force, thank you. I'm retired Air Force. My husband's retired Air Force. I had the privilege of going and serving and seeing the world, and I had the privilege of coming back home. I was born and raised here in Hendersonville, went to Hendersonville High School, and when I came home, I had a career behind me, retirement, a check in my hand, and a job to go to. My son just spent 10 years in the Navy, and he got out in Pensacola, Florida. He has a 2,600 square foot home, a wife, and 2 children. What he has in Pensacola, he can't replace here in Hendersonville. He can't replace here. He cannot come home like I came home. And it's the same thing with all of our children. Most people in here are not young home buyers. Most people in here have already done that. Their children are grown up. And you know what? As a mom, I tell my children, you can do anything you want to do. And we send them to school, and we go to those Friday night football games, and we cheer these people on, and then we send them off to college. But we don't do anything to help them come back and live back in the communities that they grew up in. Because right now, they can't afford these houses. A young family that makes $110,000, that has a student loan payment of $300, and 1 car note of $300, and that's not a big car note, and that's not a nice car, okay? They can only afford to buy a $310,000 home with the way that interest rates are. Where do they live here? They don't. Gallatin Senior High School students don't live here. Station Camp High School students don't live here. Hendersonville High School students don't live here. That is unfair. Everybody that is fussing right now have these great lots. They have these nice homes. Their kids don't live here and couldn't live here. Until we increase the density and we start building like Murfreesboro did, and we start developing the inside of our cities to match the job growth that y'all are doing so good with, we're not going to be able to change what's happening. We're not going to be able to support ourselves because those people are our future. These 675 people that can't speak because they don't live here yet are going to thank you for voting yes. Thank you. Oh, not mine. Oh, and by the way, we all need to be really nice to each other tonight, no matter what the vote is, because I was approached after leaving the Planning Commission by an Atlanta reporter from Bloomberg, and he is up here in Gallatin tonight to watch what happens because he has heard that Gallatin, Tennessee can't get along. And I want, no matter what happens, for us to be nice. Thank you all. I got his card.
Tammy Chambers, 2103 Albatross Way, Gallatin, Tennessee. And I'm going to leave you with this, okay? I sold Cambridge Farms. I was a new home sales agent there for Goodall Homes. I sold in Foxland Harbor, new homes for Goodall Homes. I also sold in Fairview Plantation. And I also now sell in Nexus. I've sold probably somewhere around close to 800 homes in my career. And the people, I guarantee you, if you go back to Cambridge Farms and you drive through that community and you see them using the amenities that were put into Cambridge Farms, you see kids playing, you see HOA events, You see people moving in, moving out. You see it in Foxland. All these neighborhoods that I've seen that were pieces of dirt. Yes, beautiful, beautiful land. But you know what? Those beautiful pieces of land, they made beautiful neighborhoods for families that could not live here had we not had them. So I'm going to ask you, when you take your vote tonight, think about, you know what? One, look what y'all have done. You've created a place where people want to live. And these people need housing. They're in apartments because they're waiting on housing. So I just ask for you to think about the future developments and the families that live there and how happy that they are, and ask you to give these 600 and something family members the opportunity, whether they're the single person that has kids, whether they're coming out of college, young professionals that now are buying homes, that you give them the opportunity that cannot be here to speak, to be able to be as happy as the people are in these previous neighborhoods that are absolutely gorgeous. And I ask you to vote yes.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under public comment this evening?
What's up, council? I know you guys are probably getting sick of seeing me, hopefully not. But my name's Caden Ray, and I live at 929 Aqua Drive in Gallatin, Tennessee, right off of Lock 4. I'm 18, and all me and my friends are also, young, and I'm a senior. I'm graduating high school in about a week. And all that's really exciting, and, we're also not oblivious to the affordability of houses here in Gallatin and Hendersonville. But I do have some buddies, Macy and Rana, and they only are a year older than me, and they found homes off of Douglas Bend. And I was like, wow, that was impressive. I thought y'all might have to move out to like Portland or Clarksville, maybe 30 an hour away. So yeah, I mean, that's a drive, but it's not too shabby. As somebody who lives on Lock 4, I would prefer to not see this development happen in the range that it's at with the current circumstances we have. And I just feel like over these last few city meetings that I've attended, it was kind of like a rude awakening to first see our city council distracted on their phone or not paying attention, but then to pay attention and then still not listen to the residents of Lock 4. And I feel like you guys are probably caught in a balancing act that I'm not aware of because I'm young and I'm not on the city council. And I'm trying to be empathetic of that. I'm trying to understand that the best that I can. But at the same time, I feel like you guys have had like tons of people coming up that live on Lock 4 and that are telling you guys, hey, this is not something we want. Can we change some things? Can we make adjustments? And I feel like to not hear them out and to keep extending it or voting yes is like, it's kind of a kick in the face, you know what I mean? And I will just go ahead and say, I'm gonna ask you guys to not consider as much the people that speak that could actually benefit from these developments, whether it's financially or they're connected to D.R. Horton. And I've said this before, but D.R. Horton might be an exceptional group of people who make awesome homes. And their realtors might be awesome realtors, really good people. And but if you don't live on Lock 4, didn't live on Lock 4, don't own property on Lock 4, I feel like you're not as qualified to speak. And I'm asking you guys to hear me out on that because I live on Lock 4 and I am 18 and I am looking to move out pretty soon. I've got great folks, they're good people, and they should be able to enjoy what they have and what they worked hard for. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Anyone else?
Paige, I'm still getting a lot of people texting me saying that they're not getting the feed.
It's just, we've restarted 3 times. It is what it is. There's a recording that's happening right now. We'll post it after the show, but we've done all we can to get the feed going.
Okay.
I have it on my phone.
Yeah, I'm getting texts too saying that the people have it. Yeah.
Maybe tell them to back out of it and try to restart it.
I don't have an answer, but I know we're not going to fix it right now.
So if you're on the YouTube channel, get out of it, go back in. That's how, I was actually watching the county meeting last night, and I had to do it like 4 times. It happens. So,
People may be able to try out the Gallatin website. That's where my friend said that they were able to see it from.
okay, so on the Gallatin website, gallatintn.gov, 2 people say they can see it, so you might try it right there. But we will definitely post the meeting in its entirety tomorrow morning if it doesn't show up as recorded somewhere. Appreciate your patience with that. Technology is great until it's not, right? Move on to mayor's comments. I just have a few events to share with you. Do want to mention that the Shalom Zone has their Let's Grow Tennessee tomorrow. UT Extension Lunch and Learn is tomorrow at Hartsville Pike at their extension office. That's from 12 to 1. The 24th is Councilman Fennell's birthday. The 24th is also Good Morning Gallatin. This is the state legislative update. Happens at the Hampton Inn. It is sponsored by the Chamber. You do need to make reservations. You can contact them to do that. Also on Friday is the ribbon cutting for Friends of Miracle Park's new STEM edition at Tribble Creek Park. That's at 1 p.m. On Saturday is the market day at the Gallatin Farmers Market. This Sunday is the decoration day at the city cemetery. Weather's not looking great, but we're knocking wood and saying prayers and hoping and watching the forecast that it will be okay. But decoration day at the city cemetery, that's from 2 until 4 p.m. And then after that will be the Bluegrass Show for the Gallatin City Cemetery on the Gallatin Downtown Public Square. That happens from 5 until 9 p.m. Again, hoping for great weather. Then on Monday, Memorial Day is officially on that day. Typically, the Veterans Park at Sumner County Administrative Building does have an event. I have not heard about that this year. I meant to check before this meeting, but I failed to do that. But typically, they have it either at 11 or noon, and it's always a wonderful event when they have that. So hopefully that's going on Monday. And then on the 1st of June is Breakfast at the American Legion again, their monthly breakfast. Do want to mention the John Berry concert that happened at Tribble Creek Park this past weekend. Good attendance, very generous contribution by our very talented local resident. They put on a great show, had some people opening for them that were tremendous, and quite the setup out there. And so thank you to Mr. John Berry, his family, his band, and everybody that was able to enjoy that, and certainly Parks and Recreation. Also on Saturday was the Food Truck Festival, and I'm just amazed at the people that show up for food truck festivals, but they do. There was quite the crowd there. Talked to several of the vendors. They were well pleased. Some were sold out, which is always a good sign, I think. So that will conclude the mayor's comments. We will now move to the regular agenda. However, there is one item of other business that I do think needs to be addressed before we get to item 1. If council is willing to consider that. Ms. Hammacaulay, do you want to?
I have an item of business that would typically be brought up under other business, but I think it'd be more appropriate to bring it up at this point. The request has been made, but I also think because of the nature of what it is, I think it would be best for everyone's interest to bring that forth out of order and to go ahead and discuss it now.
I move we allow that.
Motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilman Hayes. Any discussion, any questions?
It was Fennell.
Oh, it don't matter.
Oh, sorry, wait, I heard him. too.
Okay.
It don't matter.
Tell Ms. Kittrell if you want something changed over there. Any questions, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hammacaulay.
Yes. So yesterday, I received a complaint. This is an ethics complaint, and it was attempted to be delivered to me by email, but I have figured out I never received the email because the spelling of my name is wrong. So that is why I didn't receive emails. But it was hand-delivered to me, and I'm going to read this ethics complaint to you. It says, "Dear Ms. Hammacaulay, I am writing to file an ethics complaint against Councilwoman Eileen George. On April 12th, 2024, you received a letter addressed to you from Jason Holloman, Holloman Law Group, regarding the Banks of Lock 4 development. As per Mr. Holloman's request, You forwarded the letter to council members. On April 15th, 2024, Councilwoman George forwarded a copy of the letter to Jeff Hebb, CEO of Sumner County Realtors, in direct violation of the Gallatin City Code of Ethics, Section 2.6, Use of Information, Item B. And this is the quote from 2.6. An official or employee may not use or disclose information obtained in his official capacity or position of employment with the intent to result in financial gain for himself or any other person or entity. Mr. Hebb then forwarded the letter on to the Gallatin Sumner Realtor brokers, in which he asked for a strong presence in opposition to, as he states, and this is a quote, "A growing effort and our livelihood relies on housing availability and attainability. We need our realtor party voices heard," end quote. Additionally, Ms. George distributed the letter to others it was not intended for, which is strictly prohibited, as is clearly stated on the Holloman Law Group cover sheet. In light of these facts, her disregard for the Code of Ethics, and her ability to be impartial, Councilman George should be disqualified from voting on the banks of Lot 4 and future developments from which she may financially benefit. I am respectfully requesting this point of business be discussed before any vote on the banks of Lot 4 takes place at the May 21, 2024 council meeting. Respectfully, Karen L. Bookout. So I did receive this, I was hand-delivered this yesterday, and I want to now just turn your attention to our municipal code. And so the municipal code in section 2-10 on ethics complaints states that when a complaint of a violation of any provision, and this is subsection B3, when a complaint of a violation of any provision of this chapter is lodged against a member of the city council shall either determine that the complaint has merit, determine that the complaint does not have merit, or determine that the complaint has sufficient merit to warrant further investigation. If the city council determines that a complaint warrants further investigation, it shall authorize an investigation by the city attorney or another individual or entity chosen by the city council. I have not conducted an investigation because that's not part of the process at this time, but I do think that it warrants me to give some background facts and to kind of explain the allegation. So the allegation is I received a letter from an attorney. The attorney requested that I forward that to council members. I did exactly that. And I'm not certain about the complaint about the cover sheet. What I got was a letter and an email, and it was directed to me. But there's nothing prohibiting it be distributed further. I distribute to council as requested. So the allegation that is in this complaint is that by the forwarding of the letter regarding the litigation, that Ms. George had the intent that she was going to have financial gain, which I don't think it's really actually, as I infer, it's not the letter itself, because the letter is about litigation. It's not about if the development is voted on, yes or no. I mean, it is if you don't vote, if you do vote, here's some issues. So I think that the main issue is the fact that Councilwoman George is a realtor. As I explained to the person who sent me the complaint, the fact that Ms. George is a realtor does not disqualify her from voting. And we can look to the Tennessee law on conflicts of interest for that. And so there are two statutes that deal with conflicts of interest. And I'm going to repeat what another person got up here and repeated tonight. Don't shoot the messenger. I am the attorney. I'm giving you the law. I'm telling you what the law is. And if you don't like the law, contact your legislators. I can't do anything about the law. So the law is, in order for there to be a conflict of interest on a vote, there has to be a contract involved. To my knowledge, and like I said, I haven't done an investigation, but there are two statutes under Tennessee law that deal with conflicts of interest. And I do see a lot of times on social media and other places that people allege various people on the council have a conflict. when the law simply states if you have to have a conflict of interest, there has to be a contract involved. To my knowledge, there is no contract involved. The allegation is that Councilwoman George is going to be benefiting financially from this because she's a realtor. There's not a direct conflict of interest or a direct financial gain because we don't know at this point if she would be selling any homes in this development. I mean, it could be said about any council member up here that if you are in a business and more people are here, you could financially gain from something. So that doesn't mean there's a conflict of interest. I just want to get that, I just want to make sure everyone understands that. So at this point, the council has to determine under our code whether you think the complaint has merit, whether the complaint does not have merit, or whether the complaint has sufficient merit to warrant further investigation. And what I always do, if there's ever a complaint against a council member and council determines that it warrants further investigation, is I recommend there be a third party because I work with these people. They are in effect, they hire and fire me. They are my bosses, and I am not going to do an investigation, so I always request a third party. I don't make the determination. That's what this body does, according to our municipal code, is you determine if you think the complaint has merit, does not have merit, or has sufficient merit to warrant further investigation.
Do you have a question, Mr. Fennell? No. No. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mr. Fennell? Did you have a question? Oh, I thought you had your pen up. Okay, it would be proper for a member of this body to make a motion that it does have merit or that it does not have merit, and we would proceed from there.
And I said, you know, in the past, I think we've allowed the council member who an allegation is brought, a complaint's brought against, to allow them to speak.
Well, I would certainly welcome you to do
I don't know if you want to speak on this issue or not. You certainly don't have to, but we have allowed in the past for council members to be able to speak.
Well, I'll make a motion on it. I'll make a motion that does not have any merit. I mean, I don't see how it can without having a conflict of interest. And it's no different than Sean doing auto work for these people that are moving in, or Craig Hayes when I was working selling insurance to people that live in those houses. If you're self-employed, you're depending on, I mean, you're going to be making money on people that live in this community.
I second Craig's motion.
Motion and a second. Any questions related to that? Ms. George, did you want to say anything? You certainly don't have to.
And I would tell you that there's I tried to find, there's not a lot on ethics complaints. I did talk with MTAS today because they actually drafted the model ethics code that the city adopted. So I did talk with an attorney from MTAS today who advised me to, you know, look at the conflict of interest laws and also to search any case law. And there is a good case that I just feel like before there's any vote, I want to give the information that I have gathered. And like I said, I have not done any type of investigation because that's not what I'm supposed to do at this point. But there is case law on conflict of interest in Tennessee where it was actually a county, and there was a county commissioner who had two of them actually, who owned property. There was a road that was going to go through a city. And there were two county commissioners that owned property. There was an alternate A and an alternate B. And alternate A, there were two county commissioners that owned property alongside where the road was going to go through. Alternate B, no one in the county on that commission owned any property. The commission voted for alternate A, and some citizens brought litigation, brought a lawsuit against I think it was the town of Englewood. I think it's in McMinn County, if I'm remembering correctly. And the court said that no, it was not, there was not a conflict of interest, even though there would eventually be, TDOT would come in and they would have contracts, that there was not even an indirect because there was no contract at the time of the vote. And so I just wanted, and for citizens to kind of understand what the law on conflicts of interest is, because I do think it can be confusing, and when you're sitting out there, I understand that can be confusing, but the law on conflicts of interest requires a contract before there's a conflict.
Okay, so are there any questions, any discussion?
Does anyone else want to speak? I mean, everyone has an opportunity to speak if anyone wants to speak.
Also, with that being stated, I think it's important to also highlight that Councilwoman George has lived in Tennessee upwards or close to 50 years, and this has been her profession for almost 40, so it's not like she randomly became an agent when this project came up.
And I think, because I feel like what was read to us is also about the forwarding of the email. Once an email is received by any of us, it is subject to public records request. And I don't know who might forward anything, but it's out there. It's out there for whomever may wish to consume it. And you know, if there's something that cannot be shared, we are in an executive session related to a lawsuit with the attorney. Beyond that, everything's pretty.
And I will say that when I get a letter from an attorney about litigation, I typically don't, and haven't in the past, email that out to council members, because then you have it, it can get disseminated. There's nothing stating that, we have no policy stating that you can't disseminate it. There's nothing that requires them not to. It also, I can get concerned that there's going to be discussion when there shouldn't be discussion. I'm not saying that it happens. I just am always looking out for the best interest of the city. So I would typically not have emailed that out, but it was a specific request in this letter from the attorney that I do so. And so that's what I did.
We have a motion and a second. Is everyone ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion determining that this is not a merited complaint, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, it is determined not a merited complaint, and therefore we can move on to agenda item number 1, which is second reading on ordinance 02402-8. Councilman Fan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, zoning 235.51 plus or minus acres, not zoned to the R8 PRD medium density residential planned residential district, and rezoning 58.88 plus or minus acres from the R40 low density residential district to R8 PRD medium density residential planned residential development district, with a preliminary master development plan for the banks at Lock 4, located east of Lock 4 Road and north of Peach Valley Road, authorizing the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. I'd like to say something here. I'm going to make the motion that we do vote on this, and I'd like to give a reason why.
So is that a motion to approve or to vote?
Vote.
Okay.
Or approve.
Well, we can't vote without a motion to vote one way or the other.
To approve.
Okay.
I see positive and negatives of.
Actually, before we go on with the discussion, if you have a motion to approve, I need a second before we can proceed with discussion.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Fan, a second by Councilman Hayes. Now, go right ahead.
I see positive and negatives for both sides of this, but I think it's time for both sides to move on, and let's put this to an end so we can all, the people for and against. Now, I was one of the first persons to suggest a park, and I've said this many times. I got one person to respond to that, and we've had 2 years to get this started. And here at the 11th hour, it gains a little momentum, but what I see is going to be too large of an expense for the city. And there's not enough grant money out there that we don't even know we can get to make it happen. So I'll be voting for this project.
Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Councilman Javons.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to know if it's 275 units or 295 units, because the last plan was given to us showed 275 units, and the ordinance say 295 units. So my first question, and I would like an answer to that, it's how many units?
I don't know what you just
How
said,
many
I'm
units?
sorry.
How many units?
How many units total? Okay.
Mayor and council members, it's 675 units.
Oh, yeah, 600, but the ordinance shows 695.
We can correct that.
Should probably make a motion to amend that, to correct that in the ordinance, if it is incorrectly stated in the ordinance. I don't have, make sure it's just not incorrect on our agenda. We need to look at the actual ordinance to see what the ordinance.
Yeah, I make a motion to correct the ordinance to have the 675 units and not 695 units.
A motion to amend the number of units on the ordinance.
I'll second.
And second, motion by Councilman Javon, second by Councilman Hayes. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Amendment passes. We're back to the original motion as amended. I will remind you, there is a list of recommendations with the traffic study from KCI. Engineering has made the recommendation that you amend the ordinance to require those improvements. It is, of course, up to this body, but you've seen that letter. It's been presented to this presented to this body. Engineering recommends it, and those are the off-site improvements. And
I'll make a motion that we amend to add those.
Add the letter requiring all of these recommendations.
Second.
motion by Councilman Hayes, a second by Councilman Carter. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Schwartz.
Just on that motion, I have a stuff I want to show you after, and you're going to understand why. But Block 4 and Driveway A, that should be done before even any piece of land is moved in that development. Because if that pass and that start to get built, you're going to have dump trucks on that road out of that, on top of that hill, going all day long, and somebody is going to get hurt because there is no visibility. So that's a safety concern. So I think the driveway, the Lock Forward and Driveway A should be built before they even get a land disturbance permit or before they start moving any land out of that development. And I'm going to make a motion for that because that's a safety issue. So I will make a motion on the amendment that Lock Forward and Driveway A.
Wait.
I can clarify. Let him make his motion, then I'll clarify.
Okay, but we have another motion that we have not voted on, so that's why I thought he was speaking to that proposed amendment. So see where we're going?
Yes, it does relate to this amendment.
Okay. Well, okay.
Does driveway A mean Aqua Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
It's the turning lane.
We
in
have a
essence.
motion. We probably need to get a second before we start discussing it. He's.
Yeah, that was a second.
Okay, so I have an amendment that hasn't been voted on. And so now he's asking to amend that amendment with a time frame.
He's asking So this letter states the driveway and associated improvements should be constructed prior to occupancy of any residential unit. And I think what he's requesting is it be constructed prior to a land disturbance permit? Is that what you requested?
Yeah, or any.
I don't know if they can do it without a land disturbance
Right.
permit.
Might need to hear from engineering on that.
Mr. Tuttle, I would ask if you would just, don't say anything you're not confident or sure about, but if you have insight that you might offer and feel comfortable doing so.
Councilman Javant's actually mentioned this to me, and I don't think it's unreasonable. They could construct this without a land disturbance permit. They would get a right-of-way excavation permit and complete the turning lane before a land disturbance permit. I haven't discussed this with the development team, but I don't think it's unreasonable.
Do you think that is going to be where their construction access would be?
Yes, I do. So it does make sense.
Did we have a second?
No, but.
I haven't made the motion yet.
But I'm still back on, okay. So you've not made a motion, so that would allow him
I
to
haven't.
add that to the existing amendment that we've not yet voted on.
We are adding that?
And
Well,
that's
not
fine.
yet.
I think
Not
we'll-
yet.
And
If
if you don't mind, state what you want to do, and we'll add that to my motion. I think
Yeah.
I'll get it, but.
It's required driveway A prior to.
Prior to prior to,
Before construction begins would be
before
simple.
land construction begin or any disturbance permit is.
Okay, and I'll add that to my motion.
Okay.
That's
Are you
reasonable.
okay with the second? Does that satisfy everybody as far as the amendment goes?
That seems reasonable because Aqua Drive is hard to see from.
Is there anyone else with any comments or questions before we vote on that amendment? Okay, we have the amendment to include the recommendations from KCI as requirements with one modification, which would require the turning lane to be constructed before any construction on the site begins.
It's actually the driveway and the associated improvements.
And driveway and associated improvements before any construction, and driveway A, so. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, let's vote on that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, that amendment passes as well. So now we have two amendments on the original motion. And so we're back to the original motion. So I'd ask, does anyone have any further discussion, questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to be on that Zoom meeting. That was at the very same time as the Gallatin Department of Electricity Board was meeting. So I appreciate that was set up. I'm sorry that I missed it. As far as the motion, we've heard from a lot of people who did obviously a lot of research, and I appreciate you all going to the trouble to present things that you found to us. We've heard it. I've heard you say these things. I still believe that I don't believe it fits that neighborhood because we're cramming in so many little houses compared to what's already there. And of course, the traffic, not only on Lot 4, but it's going to affect all of Gallatin and all of the feeder roads like Peninsula and Belvedere. I also don't like that we are setting a precedent by this number of homes for the next developments that are going to be coming up, possibly in the future in that same area. So I just wanted to let that be on the record.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jeff, can you?
What?
I have some stuff I want to put
We've
on the
had this
screen.
discussion before. What?
All right.
What is the content?
The content is
I'm
about,
trying to run this meeting when I don't know what's going to be put on the screen. It makes me uncomfortable.
is about Log 4 Road, and I can assure you everything is about Log 4 Road. You're not going to have picture of me running around and...
I don't know what you just said, but it's about Lock 4 Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it attacking any other members of this body?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Henschel. While he's doing that, I will say, following Vice Mayor Love's comments, I think it's so challenging when, people don't want density, but then that's the path to affordability, and that is the path to land preservation. And here, I think we have 235 acres, and 148 is getting preserved. I've actually had the conversation with or is open space, had the conversation with someone that didn't understand that they can't come back and then build on that 148 acres. That 148 acres is locked down as open space in perpetuity. And the density is where affordability comes from, where efficiency and infrastructure. And I appreciated the comments about affordable housing. I appreciated the comments about available workforce. We have a really strange situation in Middle Tennessee where so many people are moving to Middle Tennessee. They're not participating in the workforce, and we're very challenged with acquiring them. And this happens at the same time that so many people are retiring. And so we're certainly not going to be able to have teachers and police officers and public works employees when they can't have housing here or anywhere near here. And someone told the story about their child. I've got a nephew that moved back from Louisiana, and he's in Westmoreland, and they love Westmoreland, but there was nothing here that they could afford. And that does break my heart. When you talk about changing the culture or the character of a community, when no one who is from a community can afford to still live there, it does change the culture and character. And so I have so much sympathy for, because I look around and I hate it too. I hate the changes. There are advantages that I can see, but to see how our communities change, there's a lot of nostalgia associated with my childhood and how things were. But as I frequently remind myself and others, I also remember the challenges of that. And I was one of the kids that grew up here and couldn't wait to leave because there was no opportunity, and there were no job opportunities, and there was really no life that I wanted to live here until some years went by and some investment was made here and some opportunities did become available, and I was able to live in Gallatin and work in Nashville. Okay, I'm not saying anything else. You're loaded.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've been at that for a long time. So I'm gonna get back to, before we vote, to several points. So let's see, that stuff work. Hi, Chief Bandy left, but I was actually on the phone with him one day driving Log 4, and I got stuck behind our trash pickup, and where actually I asked him, it was kind of funny, I asked him what I could do because I didn't know if I could cross a double line to pass the trash pickup or if I had to stay behind him. And Chief told me, do what you think is good. So I actually did like everybody else. I passed our trash, but think of people leaving the development and going behind that. We talk about accidents, so it's easy to talk about it, but it's a lot, when you're put on that situation, it's a different story. So we have that young gentleman, that was actually his car, we're talking about it. So as you can see, if you have no room to go, so if something happens, you're in a ditch. And that's what happened to him. So the other one is kind of a little more interesting. There was actually another constituent was talking about a car finishing in her backyard, in her front yard. And that's what happened. Because again, we can talk about it, but when we see the picture, it's a different animal. Because we can actually realize what's happening. So you can realize that when that happened, Lock 4 was shut down until everything was moved. That's the list of accidents who happened in Lock 4 between 21 and 23. There were 66 accidents there, all recorded, and 14 are listed as injury, 28 are listed as property damages, and 4 are listed as hit and run. And if you look at the average, that's 1 every 6 days, average. So we talk about that study was paid by the city of Gallatin. And it said that document analysis conduct to evaluate the opportunities for improving transportation accommodation along or as an alternative to Lock 4 Road. And that was done in 2007. So what said in that document is that the current cross-section along Lock 4 Road includes one 10-foot travel lane in each direction with no shoulder provided on either side of the road. And this is the important part. It's improving the existing cross-section to a standard cross-section with no less than 11-foot travel lane with shoulder or curb and gutter will improve the traffic operation along this road. Widening Lock 4 Road will also increase safety and driver comfort along the runway. So in 2007, they were already talking about safety on that road. We already had more than what we had in 7, and nothing had changed. I suppose you all read that was the traffic impact study paid by the developer. And they say that KCI Technology conducted the traffic counts from 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. on typical weekdays in April and May of 2022. But like you all know, a lot of traffic on that road come on the weekends, even more on the weekends, but that not taking account on that study. So we have 2019 shows, so say that was done in 22, but the numbers show 2019, so I got a little confused on that one. But if you take the TDOT, in 2007, you had 3,073 trips per day. In 2019, you have 7627. On 2023, you had 8469. And the numbers, depending where we look, are growing. So the trip generation, I kind of computed it again out of the document because the document was made with the max amount they had initially, but they reduced that. So I figure out, you know, if I do basic math, that there will be actually 5790 new trips daily. And if you look at numbers, if this amount of traffic, that will represent almost the same amount regarding daily on the Gallatin bypass. So you can see the difference between the Gallatin bypass and Lock 4. So Lock 4 can't get that. If I keep going on the study, the traffic study, they talk about level of service. So I know we don't have a level of service in the city. We've been talking about that for years, but we still don't have it. But they say that the southbound approach is expecting to deteriorate from LOS level of service E to F in PM peak. And 109 and Hancock is expecting to deteriorate from LOSD to LOSE in the PM peak. And if we keep it, say it's going to improve with the construction of a roundabout to level of service A. That sounds great, except if you continue reading, it says that a roundabout may not be feasible due to the required right-of-way. If the roundabout is deemed infeasible, a signal should be installed, and all approach should be widened to include 2 entering lanes and 1 existing land. So my question here is, are we going to get that land? Because that land is not there to widen the road at that level. Same for the other roundabout. And they say that the roundabout, the study recommends a roundabout for the intersection. However, there are construction challenges that may make the roundabout too difficult to build, such as a roadway grade and distance to the stream crossing. If we can build a roundabout, we have to put a four-way stop. And we don't have data on that. So again, we need a roundabout, but we can build it. So if the four-way stop is going to make things better, we have no clue. Now let's go to the character area, because I think the majority of people who came here say they don't complain. They don't say that's not going to be developed. They're okay with that, but they have issues with how that's going to look. Zoning ordinance, you probably all read it. General provision, it's meant to promote and protect the public health, safety, morals, comfort, convenience, and general welfare of the people, to protect the character and maintain the stability of residential, and to promote the orderly and beneficial development of such area. To prohibit uses, building, or structure which are incompatible with the character of the development. Now, if we go to the residential, we get the same thing. Protect residential area against undue congestion. We have been talking about that. By regulating the density of population and density activity of the bulk of building in relation to the surrounding land and one another. And to promote the most desirable use of land and direction of building development, to protect the character of the district. So again, for everything I heard, all the constituents who came here, that's what they complain about. They complain about traffic, and they complain about that these developments not going to fit the character of the area. Annexation study, so that was made years ago. So I went back to the numbers, and I recomputed the numbers with the new thing. And where the annexation study was showing that was actually a viable project for the city, now it shows that if everything goes as planned, the city is going to make $62 per unit per year. So if we try to build to get revenues, and that's using the standard 2.4 capita per unit. So if we go even 2 per capita for half of the units, we're going to lose money. The city is going to lose money on the development. That's what the zoning ordinance says. Protect the community's tax revenue. If we have potential of losing dollars, that doesn't protect the tax revenue. The PRD, again, we go back to harmonious relationship, et cetera, so I'm going to go quick on that. PRD shall be harmonious and not conflict with the residential area. So we go back to the maps, because, again, we need to look at the maps. You already saw that one, where I took basically the circle, same number of acreage, 60 units. If I put that on the banks, we're 380 units. Now we talk about what's around it. So everything was on orange is R20, green is R40, and we have few R15 who are on the left side. On the left side of the log 4 was. So if you look at what's happening there, almost everything is R40 or R20. So if I go back to what the zoning is telling us, is that PRD shall be harmonious and not conflict with the surrounding residential neighborhood. So when 86% of the land around is rural residential or low density and the lowest zoning around is R15, it's clear that RIPRD does not mean the intent of the zoning ordinance. I think we should not have lower than R14 there. I miss one. It's not going back. Oh, yeah. So I was, you know how that stuff go back, Jeff? I got it. Yeah, go back. I got it. Thank you. I went to the smaller closed size around the green farm because we're talking about lots and what's Brian who told us that was 65 by 110, and actually found one was smaller than that. Only one was 55 by 100. Everything around there is between 10,000 square foot lot and even one with 136,000 lot. Public input. Every constituent I met in my district, and I talked to a lot for the last year, they all talked and say they opposed to that type of zoning for the Log 4 area. They want to protect the beauty of our city. If we go to the ordinance now, the ordinance says that the zoning and rezoning with preliminary master development plan will be compatible with the surrounding environment and will protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and will not be injurious to the property or improvement in the area in which the property is located. That's what we're going to vote, and that's what Mayor Brown's going to sign. If I look at every detail, it's not compatible with surrounding area when the lowest zoning is 15 and everything is higher than that. That's not going to protect the public health, and that will be injurious to the adjacent property. And I remember the oath I took. Our oath was saying that I would support the charter and ordinance of the city of Gallatin. So how we can vote yes when it's clear that we're not following the city rules. And again, I will follow what my constituent wish, and I will not vote no. I will vote no for this development in its current form. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there further questions, further discussion?
Just one. When you were talking about affordable housing, how much, have we heard how much these houses are going to cost?
These were, they don't know because they're not there yet, and it's going to depend on what the market is at that time. But they said they won't be starter homes, but they won't be terribly expensive homes either. But
What does that mean?
well, the market will determine that when they're there, you know. We didn't think homes would be as expensive as they are right now 2 years ago. So supply and demand and what people need.
I think one of the theories that, and I think the developer would agree, this is to give some people with the starter homes to move up a notch where they work, increase their income, and then it will open up some starter homes for the people that need them.
Yeah, there was an interesting thing that we attended. It was Edsel Charles. Several of you know him, and he was talking about that those intermediate homes are really, I'd never thought about this because that they were really important because they did exactly what you just said. I never thought about it in that way, but and I think we all know people right now who would love to have a different home, but interest rates and housing costs have and that's not just young people. I mean, that's older people that want to downsize. That's It's kind of across the board. It's a difficult circumstance.
The more options, the better.
Well, and I'm gonna say this because I'm thinking of it, but Gallatin, when we talk about Gallatin and people are so concerned about all the growth, we are not even nearly the fastest growing community in Middle Tennessee. This is happening all over Tennessee. If you want to get something really enlightening, start looking at some of these sites about relocating to Tennessee. I mean, it's frankly frightening to me because there are people from all over this country that think that Tennessee is some kind of utopia, and they can't wait to come here, and they don't even care where they're going. I mean, some will want to be in Nashville, some will want to be around Pigeon Forge, that kind of thing. But they're just looking for anything that they can afford. And they all want open land, but then they find out how much it costs, and they're like, oh, wait, we can't pay that. So,
Actually, Lebanon right now is the fastest growing in Tennessee.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Lebanon was the fastest growing in Tennessee.
Right. And Lebanon is a city very much like Gallatin. Of course, we know about Murfreesboro and Franklin and some of the other cities. And it's going to ebb and flow depending on.
I have another concern, and I don't know how we can do that because with everything we have been saying on the Horton, I started to look into it. I'm not going to go on the construction, but there was an article on the Dallas News where D.R. Horton announced they are planning to expand their single-family renting business. So they are at one point.
We cannot determine how the properties are used. I mean, they've said they're going to be selling homes. We all know that any neighborhood can change depending on the market. None of us want that to happen for sure. I'm being brazen speaking for all of us, but I think that's the general consensus of us. But no, I don't think we can consider that in any way.
Because we got that in St. Blaise already, we changed from.
I don't know what you're.
This development on St. Blaise was supposed to be sold, and now it's all rental.
I understand.
So there is nothing we can do to.
Exactly. That's fair housing. So. Anyone else with comments or questions? Are we going to vote on this? Okay, Ms. Kittrell, if you would call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Love?
No.
Councilman Carter?
Yes.
Councilman Fan?
Yes.
Councilman Fennell?
Yes.
Councilwoman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Juvance?
No.
Passes.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, citizens. In a perfect world, we could all get what we all wanted all the time, and it is very hard not to be able to afford that. Challenging thing. I don't think anybody wanted to vote on this. I don't think any of us wish this development were coming to us at this point in time, but it's the reality of the circumstance. But I thank you all for your kindness and patience with this, and I wish you all a good night. I'm going to ask that we take a 10-minute recess. I think some of us may need a restroom break. Huh? Okay, Councilman Hayes requested a 5-minute recess, so we will reconvene at 8:20. I'm here. All right, we are ready for item number 2, which is second reading on ordinance 02404-18. Councilwoman George is, and she's hustling to the seat.
You may do it.
Sure, go ahead. Do you mind if Councilman Hayes does it
Okay,
while
this is an ordinance appropriating $280,000 for the purchase of the Chamber of Commerce building. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Fennell and Councilman Fan. Opening the floor for any discussion. Anyone? Councilman Juvance?
I want to reiterate what I said before. I think there were 2 appraisals. One was high, one was low. But I think, I know I read the contract. I kind of disagree with what got said. I asked other couple of attorneys what they were thinking. It's like attorneys, they see and read different things. If you ask 5, you're going to have 5 different opinions. So I know you did your homework, Susan. I appreciate that. But I think, again, for an organization who spend this amount of years on the city land without paying anything, we should not have to pay that amount of money. That's just my point of view.
Anyone else with any other comments or questions?
We're required to do this, though.
Right. So that is the attorney's opinion, and I respect our attorney's opinion. Okay, anyone else? This is second reading on ordinance 02404-18. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, and one abstention. 6 yeses, one abstention. Nobody's left, have they? Okay, yes, 6. Item 3 is second reading on ordinance 02405-20. Vice Mayor Love.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to provide revenue for the city of Gallatin, Tennessee for municipal purposes for the 2024 tax year and the 2025 fiscal year. I so move.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilwoman George. Reminder that ordinance at this point just says a tax neutral rate. A third reading will be required when we actually do get the rate from the county, which is probably going to be some time from now. After this, it will not be on the agenda until we get a number from the county, and then we'll bring it back when we do. Are there any questions, any comments?
Just have a question for Rachel, if you permit me, about the 1.895 who's on B2 to contribute to the retiring of the current year's principal and interest obligation. I was trying to find out where that was and I could not, so I'll just.
That's the amount of the general fund debt principal payment.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Okay, this is second reading on ordinance 02405-20. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It does pass 7-0. Item number 4 is second reading on ordinance 02405-21. Councilman Hayes.
It's an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hayes, a second by Councilman Fennell. There is an amended ordinance on your desk. What is included in that are a few small changes. One is moving $10,000 from the personnel line to professional services and EDA. In the fire department, there's $2,500 to salary, $200 to FICA, and $225 to retirement for a step increase for some separation for a chief level employee. Ms. Nichols, did I miss one, or is that some of them? Oh, yeah, the $50,000 that we're moving from engineering to finance, and that is for the project management professional services position. So it's only those 3 changes that we're requesting, or that I'm requesting. If someone would be.
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Love. Any questions on that amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, back to the budget as now amended. Opening the floor for any questions. Councilman Javance.
Thank you, Mayor. I was not there when you did the presentation, so I was able to watch it online and watch and I got the slides of the presentation you made. And you made a comment on changing classification for the planner and the HR director. So I went back and tried to figure out why. And that's true, they classified the same way some assistant department that classified, but the study was made, and that's how the study came. So I kind of disagree with that. And I looked at the reclassification. I have a few issues with that. I have issue with the fire, where six fire EMT position was required, and we only get 3 on a budget where we know Chief Beeman now. We've seen him in action. He's a fantastic planner. And with the growth we have, if the fire chief requests that we get 6 fire position in a budget, we should approve it. So I don't think we should. There is places where we could short thing, but I don't think that can be short. Another one on the park and recs. So we ask people to get certification, and I think when they get certification, we need to reward them. There was a request classification from groundskeeper to GI. It was just one step. And the grants, I think we should look at the grants because nothing against them, but again, we just give the chamber $280,000 and we give them $40K more on the grants. And same thing with the daycare center, we give them a grant, but the IDB just gave them $500K from the pilot. So I think we should maybe balance that. And we had Councilman John D who came ask for more money for the citizen center. So I think we should probably take some of that money and transfer it to the citizen center. And unlimited potential too. We didn't get what they were requiring. And like I said before, I think, it's great. Again, Mayor, you balance that budget, it's great, but we're at the point where the raise for our critical employees on that budget don't work. We're gonna lose more and more people because they're gonna be able to find job paying better somewhere else, and we already have short department, so I think we should probably look at that and see if there is a way to get some money somewhere, and including in a raise. But the first thing I would like to do is to make an amendment to make sure we fund the full request of the fire and the request of the park and recs, because I think first we need to reward people when we ask them to do something, and second, I think safety, we can't sit on safety. So I know it's money, I know we're gonna have to get that money somewhere, but I'm sure we can find a way to make that work. So that's my motion to make sure that we have 6 positions on the fire funded, and the park and rec request of reclassification is added on the budget.
Can we have a motion? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Anything else?
Same thing with the grant. I want to make a motion that we remove the $56K between the chamber and the daycare center, and we balance that between the citizen center and the unlimited potential.
Motion. There's no second, so the motion dies.
That's it.
Okay, that's it? Okay. All right, is there anyone else with any questions or any discussion? Do you feel ready to vote on this? I do want, with the fire department positions, I do think that we should apply for a SAFER grant. That's one reason I didn't put that in the funding. The other, we're still evaluating and would not be difficult to address if we need to. The grants were made by, decision was made by committee. I feel like it's respectful to support the committee who makes the recommendations. Anyone else? Questions, comments? You ready to vote?
just on what you just said, we're expecting a grant to fund more firefighters?
I think that we should apply for one. The way the SAFER grant works is it provides funding for 3 years. I can't remember if it graduates down over those years, but that's how we've added on large numbers of staff several times. And it gives you an opportunity to absorb that into your budget, so.
If we don't get the grant, we won't
Well,
get.
if we don't get the grant, we'll address that, but I think it's worth applying for because
No, I agree
you're not
with
going to
that.
apply for it after you've already put, you're not going to apply for it just to add more when you don't need them. The time to apply for it is when you need them. So I think that makes sense. And there was some debate about that going away, but anyway, that's ready to vote on this, y'all? Okay, I'm lost. Okay, second reading on ordinance 02405-21. All in favor, please. Oh, as amended, thank you. It's been a long day. As amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no.
No.
Okay, it passes 6-1. Item number 5 is first reading on ordinance 02405-22. Councilman Fennell.
Okay. This is an ordinance appropriating ARPA water infrastructure grant funds. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Councilwoman George. Any comments, any questions?
I'm going to abstain on that one because I think the way that was done is not the way that should have been done, the conflict with the county and what happened. So I would be abstaining.
I will comment on that because I'm very dismayed to hear that. I think being able to get water to our neighbors is something very commendable, and I think it is entirely right that we are pursuing this to serve our neighbors in other parts of the county since we happen to be on the river, and I'm very grateful that our superintendent and the other entities work together to make this happen. So, okay, this is first, Councilman Hayes says, go ahead. First reading on ordinance 02405-22. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. One abstention. Item number 6 is first reading on ordinance 02405-23. Councilwoman George.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, approving a preliminary master development plan for Nichols Place Phase 4, located south of Nichols Lane and east of Ferguson Road, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. I so move.
Motion by Councilwoman George, second by Vice Mayor Love. Are there any questions? Is there any discussion? Okay, this is first reading on ordinance 02405-23. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does pass unanimously. Item 7 is first reading on ordinance 02405-24. Councilman Hayes.
Let's see, this is an ordinance appropriating $17,137 from revenue received by sale of surplus property.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Juvant. Are there any questions? Is there any discussion desired? Okay, this is first reading on ordinance 02405-24. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Does pass first reading unanimously. Item 8, first reading on ordinance 02405-25. Councilman Carter.
This is an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, rezoning a 1.19 plus or minus acre lot from the CS Commercial Services District to the Core Commercial District located north of West Shell Street and west of Southwater Avenue, authorizing the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, Zone 2024-0090, and also move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Carter, second by Councilman Hayes. Are there any questions? Is there any discussion? Everybody okay with recognizing Mr. Rose since he's at the podium? All right, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Just wanted to actually hopefully clarify, at the last meeting, the council had taken a vote to remove the condition of approval that the Planning Commission had wanted to to be imposed on this, to have 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. I just wanted to make sure that I know we were in a council committee meeting at that time. I don't know if it's more appropriate that we make that vote again during this meeting, because that's
And
kind of
they-
the official time to make those votes. I don't know if that's a legal question.
If it wasn't changed before it got put on the agenda, then yes, will have to be amended. It could have been because at the work session, they voted to remove that, so we could have just put it on the ordinance and put it on the agenda that way, but if that didn't occur, then we need to amend it tonight, yes.
I'll make a motion that we amend for.
Second.
By Councilman Hayes, second by Councilman Juvant.
I also just will clarify, I don't have that language in the ordinance language as a condition of approval, but it is in the attached resolution by the Planning Commission language. So I just wanted to make sure that.
Basically removing that requirement. Right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
What happens down the road if a different business was to come in that needed a park and there still would be allowed to go in there and use that as a usage without having to go through the parking issue?
District and. Yeah, it's the core commercial that doesn't require.
Core commercial doesn't require for commercial
I mean-
business.
But that was the argument of the planning. Okay.
Well,
Right, and, you know, I was one of the ones that really thought, you can't have residential and businesses here without parking. But then I started looking around in that area and I realized how limited the parking was for some of those other units that are typically one-bedroom apartments. At the end of the day, a business isn't going to succeed if it needs parking and they don't have it. So I think what you're doing is you're allowing a use that works with what kind of parking you have available. I mean, that's what I would hope would be the future. But this plan specifically will have parking, just not as much as we had initially recommended, because we were asking for 2. And they can get, I think, more than 1, but they can't get up to 2 per unit. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Okay, we have a motion and a second on an amendment, and we failed to vote on that, my fault. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, so we're back to the original motion as amended now. It's, any questions, any comments on this? Okay, it's first reading on ordinance 02405-25 as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Unanimously approved on first reading. Item 9 is resolution R2405-30. Councilman Juvant.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a resolution accepting public improvements by the city of Gallatin, Tennessee in the vineyard. And I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Juvant, second by Councilman Fennell. Any questions? This is resolution R2405-30. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Item 10 is resolution R2405-31. Councilman Fennell.
This is a resolution authorizing Gallatin Police Department to apply for the
Burn. It looks like Bryn, but it's burn.
Burn discretionary community project grant. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Councilman Juvant. Any questions? Good luck, Gallatin Police Department. Resolution R2405-31. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Item 11, resolution R2405-33. Vice Mayor Love.
This is a resolution updating our enterprise fund policy. I so move.
Motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilman Carter. Any questions, any discussion? Councilman Juvant.
Thank you, Mayor. So I looked at the numbers thanks to the presentation last meeting on the cost. Right now, we're at 25% of all operating costs, including gas, and that's, if I take the numbers were provided to us last week, that's $5.36 million. If we go to 50% of the cost without the gas purchase, it's only $2.9 million. So we went to 50%, but basically we lost 50% of the amount on a rainy day fund, so I'm not a big fan of that. It's kind of a number game, but why are we cutting our rainy day fund of 50% on the gas side?
Because gas is what we sell and it should not, and as Ms. Nichols explained, we shouldn't be viewing that as an operating expense. And that's what the rainy day fund is a percentage of your operating expenses to be able to support. We're not buying if we're not selling. So, Ms. Nichols, did you want to say that you moved in your chair? You don't have to.
Just going to explain, yes, it was a reduction in dollar amount, but the gas that we purchase, we sell with a margin added to it. So we've already taken into account any cost associated with the sale of the gas. And with the fluctuation greatly from year to year with weather and demand, that makes the rainy day requirement fluctuate quite a bit. With it set at the higher percent but lower dollar amount, that gives us a more stable target. And also, if we ever get to the point where we've spent down below $5 million, then anything that goes through for the gas will have to have a supermajority vote. So it does lower the threshold before that hits.
Anyone else with questions or comments about this? This is Resolution R2405-33. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. It does pass unanimously. Item 12 is Resolution R2405-36. Councilman Fan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution approving a waiver of the Engineering Division development fees and sureties for City of Gallatin sponsored projects, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fan, second by Councilwoman George. Is there any discussion, any comments, any questions? It's Resolution R2405-36. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. Item 13 is Resolution R2405-42. Councilman Fennell.
This is reappointing Alan Ramsey to the Gallatin Health Educational Housing Facility Board. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Councilwoman George. Any discussion, any questions? Okay, this is Resolution R2405-42. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Item 14 is Resolution R2405-43. Councilwoman George.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a reappointing Joanne Walker to the Gallatin Health Education and Housing Facilities Board, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman George, second by Councilman Fennell. Is there any discussion, any comments? Okay, all in favor of Resolution R2405-43, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Does pass unanimously. Item 15 is Resolution R2405-44. Councilman Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. This is reappointing Stan Carver to the Gallatin Health Educational and Housing Facilities Board. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Carter, second by Vice Mayor Love. Any comments, any questions? It's Resolution R2405-44. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes unanimously. Item 16 is Resolution R2405-45. Councilman Hayes.
Appointing Jamie Campbell as board member of the Gallatin Economic Development Agency Board. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Vice Mayor Love. Any questions, any discussion? Councilman Juvance.
I can say before, I would like to see members of the EDA actually work in Gallatin, and it's my decision. So I will be voting no.
Okay. Resolution R2405-45. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
Passes 6-1. Item 17 is Resolution R2405-46. Vice Mayor Love.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution appointing Kevin Blankenship as a board member of the Gallatin Economic Development Agency. So move.
Second.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilman Juvant. Any discussion, any questions? This is Resolution R2405-46. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, it does pass unanimously. That concludes the regular agenda. Oh, yeah, speedy. So right now we'll go to other business. Ms. Bates has an item this evening.
Don't get mad at me for having other business. I know it's been a long night. Last week, Councilman Jovance brought something to my attention that I thought we had done appropriately, but in consultation with the city attorney and then with the attorney who helped us with our office with the memorandum of understanding for Project Phoenix, one of the benchmarks for you or for the city was to agree to the pursuit budget. And that is the budget under which you also, per the MOU, if something were to go south at some point and the city backed out, the city's financial responsibility would be capped at $50,000. And then there's also part of that where we're paying for half of the survey, which is coming in under expectations. So in all the conversations with Boyle and the MOU and the different drafts, it was my understanding, because it said agree, and it's not very clear, in my opinion, doesn't have to be your opinion, that I moved forward with the idea that because it needed to be approved in 30 days from signing the contract, and Boyle had to have some time to develop it, that it was something that could be approved by the mayor because there's no additional financial responsibility for the council, plus you're not paying for that. Boyle is paying for that. So reached out to the attorney who works for us and helped with the MOU, got in touch with him today. He's been out of town. And he said that he agrees that that paragraph, based on the paragraph before it, is not as clear as it could have been. But he also said that in all, just to be safe and in all transparency, that I should bring that to you at your work session. And it is not a vote that needs a resolution, but what I will bring to you in a week is the dollar amount of the pursuit budget and then what that's paying for. But I do want to make it clear that Boyle presented that pursuit budget to the city before the 30-day time period was up. The mayor saw it before the 30-day time period was up. And then by virtue of going over it and reviewing it, and answering questions, we then let Boyle know this is okay with us, mainly because we're not paying for any of it. It's not our job to go find the companies that they're using to do the different elements. That's proprietary information. So I'm telling you all this, and then Susan and I had a chance to talk this afternoon because I talked to Tom Trent today, and so we're recommending that we bring this next week. But I want to tell you that I interpreted that information based on all the conversations we had. If I made a mistake, I am very sorry I did that. It is not Boyle's fault. It's not the mayor's fault. It's not anybody's fault except my own interpretation based on all the conversations that we had had and the timeline required to approve that pursuit budget within a 30-day window. So I am taking responsibility for this. If anyone's unhappy about that, you are welcome to let me know, and I will gladly accept the responsibility.
Not need to, I am happy to. I am happy to. Don't you feel like that this should be on you? And either way, with this council's permission, we'll get it right, so.
So I'll bring it next Tuesday. I'll have more information and a little bit more detail, and then you just need to assent or not and move on to the next step. And I'm happy to bring you up to date on where they are too then. Okay, any questions? All right, no, thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, I have one item that I need to bring to this council, and this is regarding the marquee out there. As you may know or may not know, that marquee where we put information coming to the city on is an old bank sign that several mayors ago brought uptown to use as a message board. Well, the message board has pretty much seen the end of its life. And we have talked about putting a digital sign up here. We actually had one on site, hated the technology. It looked way out of place. It was not appropriate in our historic downtown. And so we have not put a digital sign on the City Hall campus. I think that we will come up with a better solution for messaging, but in the meanwhile, we have great alternatives to message via the newsletter, via social media, via our growing email list, via our Gallatin Chamber of Commerce, the partners that we have out there. So we just need to do away with that sign, unless it just really, I don't know. We do have a choice, we do have the option to replace the white part in it, but that would still mean people going out there on a regular basis with a lift truck, changing that sign, and I'm not sure how many people even see it anymore, especially with the trees growing up, and I kind of don't.
Discussed this like 5 or 6 years ago.
I know.
Joe DeBoer
Joe
has
DeBoer.
been pushing
God
for it.
bless him. I know. He really wants that digital sign. And I have an idea for where one might work that's not necessarily on this campus. Because if say the Boyle thing were to happen, I hate to spend that kind of money on a sign, but I'm thinking on the side of a building, new technology as it continues to evolve, and Mr. DePriest and Mr. Henschel are watching it, because there is some that's certainly more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, Councilman Hayes, is that a motion?
Agreed.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, motion and a second. Anyone else?
It's sentimental because it was on security, federal's.
Would you like it?
But no, I don't.
We can make a motion to donate it to.
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
we can do that. Well, we could put it on East Main, like.
No, thanks.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. Anyone? I think that was 7-0. I know, everybody's delirious. Okay, anyone else with any other business this evening? Okay.
I had, it was Saturday, I had 2 citizens call me. One sent me a picture of 2 police cars at a private party, and they asked me if they had a party, could they get the police escort? And,
Mr. Fan, I think I got that. It was hired off duty.
well, let me finish.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Their next question was, well, and that's what I called back and told them that it was that, and they said, well, can I use a police car the next time I have a party if I hire the officers? And I said, I don't know that answer. And the other one just called and made a joke out of it, but they asked the same question, could they get police, not escort, but police protection at their private party? And it turned out, I didn't know, but it was a council member. And one of them indicated that to me, so it became an issue when I was eating dinner Saturday night, and I don't appreciate it.
Is it me? I mean, obviously, I've been called out, so.
Did you?
No, that was me.
No.
That was me, and I have no problem with that, because that's part of what we can do. We can hire great officer of our PD, of duty, and that's part of the service we are. We did it a few years ago when we had the staff at the theater downtown, when we had the
I do understand kind of the
Yeah.
concern when it's private versus a nonprofit, and they do have some stipulations about when it's,
I didn't have the answer,
Yeah.
I just,
which I think the sheriff's department's very similar. But, I mean, you can't, I don't know. Chief Bandy can give more information. Okay, anyone else with other business? Mr. Javons?
Let me bring to my attention that on November 28 last year, you probably all remember, we had a discussion on the lights, the soccer field light in Triple Creek Park. And at the end of the discussion, Councilman Fennell made the motion to add it to the work session on January 9, motion as seconded, and we was passed 7-0, and that never got brought back on January 9. So I would like to, because I was voted on, to bring that to the next work session, discussion on the,
I'm sorry, but I thought we had put that,
I thought we killed that.
yeah.
there was a motion passed. There was
About the
no-
soccer lights and the conflict with the neighbor. and-
Way a long time ago? Yeah.
That got brought up to me, and I went look back, and it's in the minutes, and so we never brought it back to a work session, and I think with everything going on, we need to talk about it again.
A motion to add to the work session.
Second.
Is that a motion, Councilman Juvance?
The motion was already made and never, that was never brought back to.
That was for January 9th. It didn't
Yeah.
happen.
So,
I mean, I can say if, and I haven't researched it, it's the first I've heard of it, but if there was a motion that was seconded, and I don't know, Mr. Brown, do you know? Do you know if it was supposed to be put on the work session agenda? But if there was a proper motion and second, it never occurred, then it should be on a work session agenda. I thought that it was discussed at some point.
Not put you.
I don't think it was ever a vote on it. It was just, after the discussion, I think Mr. Fennell said to take it back, and there was never a vote or anything. I think the minutes, is that what the
Well,
minutes?
how about this? We'll research it. If it was supposed to be in a work session and was not, we'll put it on a work session. If it was not supposed to be on a work session, then you can bring it up in the future and we can do it from there.
thank you, ma'am, I
Is
appreciate
that
it.
acceptable to everybody? Yay, we agree on something. Okay, anything else? Other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, we have public recognition.
Oh.
Public recognition on non-agenda related items.
Good afternoon, Council. Charles Durflinger, 622 Worthington Place. I'd like to say thank you to the mayor for comments at the opening of the meeting tonight about, and that's kind of what I was wanting to discuss tonight. Anytime somebody gets up and wants to make a complaint, there's policies and procedures in filing those complaints with the city. Anytime it is brought up in a session like this, it creates dissension and hurts our ability to perform our duties out as a public servant to this community. You know, I don't need people questioning what I'm out doing when I'm out doing annual life safety inspections or bringing up dangerous buildings or anybody sitting in this office and their employees out performing their duties. We're all public servants, just like the fire department, the police department, and we should be given the same respect by the citizens of this city, citizens of the city in doing so. Everyone in my office has certifications that meet certain requirements. In the past, mine have been vetted through the U.S. government as a subject matter expert in a congressional IG investigation, using my inspection reports within their investigation against a contractor who had been doing business with them in Afghanistan. Me being questioned on my qualifications, my integrity. I spent 22 years in the Air Force where I learned what integrity, honor, and service before self actually meant. To have that question like this was disheartening. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak under public recognition on non-agenda related items?
Council, Michelle Juvance, 1335 Long Hollow Pike. Couple of things. Councilman Fan, you were talking about the police officers that were at our private party, and they were hired off duty, and we did hire them through the police department and paid them. And I'll tell you why. It's because I have a stalker. I have an order of protection against this person. You all know who he is. He has violated that order of protection. He has been arrested for that. I do not feel safe because of that. So please don't make an issue out of something that's not an issue, that we did completely correctly and paid for, okay? The other thing I'm going to just comment on is I'm just really confused about the complaint that was made, the ethics complaint that was made, and how it was kind of twisted around, because when I listened to and what was read, it didn't say anything about conflict of interest. The complaint was that the councilwoman took something that was sent to her by email and sent it to her colleague in the real estate agency, and he used that same lawyer's letter and sent it to others with a letter stating it was for their livelihood depending on it. So I think that it was very clear what the complaint was, but then it was twisted around that the complaint was about conflict of interest, and that had nothing to do with what the actual complaint was. So I don't understand that. I mean, the previous person who just came up and spoke about, that there's a procedure for doing things and that people have hurt feelings when things are brought here in front of you all and said in the public. Well, and somebody comes and brings something the proper way that they're supposed to bring a procedure to you, and then you all just say, oh, well, and twist it around and just dismiss it like it's nothing. I think it's a very clear ethics violation what happened. It was clear to me. So if you think it's not clear, why would anybody bring anything to you ever? Because you're all just gonna always say oh, everything's fine. Nobody ever did anything wrong. It was absolutely a clear ethics violation. It is not okay to take something that was sent in a private email, even if it can be gotten by a public records request, which I did the public records request when I saw on Facebook what had happened. I did a records request to see who did send that, where did it come from? And that's how I learned what happened. And I don't think that was okay to do. So, I mean, to me, clear ethics violation, very clear. That's it.
Anyone else with public recognition on non-agenda related items? Mr. Derflinger, thank you for your comments. I was very bothered by some comments last week, all week, and that's why I said what I did. Our folks worked too hard to have their credibility challenged in such a way where there's no accountability. So I think you all know that I have great respect for you all and great trust in what you do every single day. And I don't ever want our employees to feel like they're being compromised personally or their professionalism challenged. So that was my comments. Ms. Hamakawi, did you want to say something?
Yes, I would just like to address the comments that were just made. There was no twisting of anything. I brought the complaint that was brought to me. I explained that it was concerning being that it was sent from a council member outside. There is absolutely no restriction anywhere that says that that cannot occur. I explained that. I didn't twist anything. When I talked with MTAS today, they're the ones that said it goes back to general law. You need to look at conflict of interest. You need to look at case law. They're the ones that wrote the code that we adopted based on that advice. That's exactly what I did. I did not investigate it because I am not supposed to investigate it. I gave the facts, and that's what I did not twist anything. And it is very disheartening when people are here working every day, long hours, and putting their all into their jobs. Lots of employees do that, and then people come in here and dispute and make allegations, because once you ring the bell, it can't be unrung. And I just wish that all citizens would think of that before they get up and speak about employees of this city, because it's very disheartening, and the morale of our city is decreasing because of that.
Yep, I follow right along. I didn't like that and disgusted with that last week.
Well, Ms. Hamakawi, I'm going to say to you, like I said to Mr. Derflinger, I've known you a long time. I have great confidence in your knowledge, your research, and the guidance that you give to the city. And so I appreciate that, and I think most people do.
I would also like to say that my integrity has been challenged to this evening, and that is just absolutely not acceptable.
Have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Hayes. Second by Councilman Carter. All in favor say aye. And I will conclude with something we all can agree on. The cicadas have outworn their welcome. Have a good evening. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.